This finger is not a spell, but communicates with the world or manipulates the world. It also didn't attack the beasts, but the world the beasts exist in. It tore open the world and used the pressure of the finger to cause the world to squeeze and collapse. The beasts were mere collateral damage. However, Wang Lin's finger was very slow, as if there were layers of invisible barriers before him, preventing him from pointing forward like the ancient ancestor. A moment later, Wang Lin withdrew his finger and no longer tried again. He lowered his head and pondered. From this spell I can see that the strength of the ancient ancestor has reached a different realm, but with the memory fragment and the rapid spell art, I can copy it. Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the fragments of the jade as he closed his eyes. There were many chaotic origin souls inside his body that he had taken from the slaughter in the celestial ancestral city. He had been slowly refining them, and now he had enough to create another spell vein. I have 5 spell veins in my body, so with one movement, I can create 99 afterimages. I wonder what will happen when I create the 6th one. Wang Lin quickly activated the rapid spell art to condense the 6th spell vein. Soon, 7 days passed. There were only 3 days left until the grand ceremony, where the emperor would title his empress. The entire ancient Dao imperial city was festive and was beautifully decorated. In particular, at night, the colorful lights could be seen from far away. Even the sky of the ancient Dao imperial city was dyed in colorful lights. It gave people a wondrous feeling and revealed the joyous atmosphere. The ancient Dao emperor put great importance on this grand ceremony, and even the entire imperial family put great importance on this matter. After all, the ancient Dao emperor was going to title his empress. All the powerful members of the ancient Dao had gathered, and people from other countries had come as well. They were going to personally see this grand ceremony. The messengers from the ancient Ji and ancient Shi had arrived to participate in this celebration. The ancient Shi had prepared a lot of gifts, and their leader was Prince Ji Du. Back then, he had personally accompanied the ancient Dao ambassadors to choose Songji, so it was no surprise that he had come. Also, the empress was named Song, and was a distant descendant of the ancient Shi Grand Empyrean, so he had also sent a messenger to bring a gift. Many people had come to the ancient Dao imperial city, making it very lively. The security of the imperial city increased to ensure that nothing would happen during the grand ceremony. The ancient Dao imperial city, especially the palace, was strictly guarded. Almost all the powerful people of the ancient Dao had arrived. The various kings that were scattered and had royal bloodlines were here. This made the ancient Dao imperial city very lively for this grand ceremony. This was a grand matter in the ancient clan. One of the 3 ancient emperors were going to title an empress. This was a great matter in the ancient clan, where the imperial power was supreme. Almost everyone knew of this, and even Mount Gudao had sent a gift. The ancient Dao emperor had attracted the attention of everyone during this period of time. In these last few days, due to the fact that there were too many people, the ancient Dao had taken out their powerful treasures to create 99 huge platforms and spread them out around the flying city. Powerful people quickly created various forms of housing on these platforms, and this was the only way to accommodate all the people that were coming. Wang Lin was immersed in his cultivation and ignored all of this. On the night 3 days before the grand ceremony, the entire ancient Dao imperial city was bright. It was lively with the sound of people, and even the 99 platforms were the same. Because so many people from all 3 clans had arrived, many auctions had appeared. While waiting for the ceremony, the people of all 3 clans began to trade with each other. A joyous atmosphere filled the ancient Dao palace. At the highest pavilion, the ancient Dao emperor had his hands behind his back as he looked at the colorful city, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The ancient Dao emperor slowly said, "In the future, I am going to make it like this in the ancient Dao imperial city every day, and become the center of the entire ancient clan. Your Majesty is a great man. There will certainly be a day when you will achieve it. We are willing to follow your Majesty to see that day arrive." In the pavilion there were 7 people kneeling on the ground, and they were filled with excitement. "How are the preparations?" The ancient Dao emperor smiled. "The ambassadors of the ancient Shi and ancient Ji have arrived, and their lodgings have been arranged. The messengers of the 2 grand Empyreans have also arrived. The Lord Messenger who brought the gift from Mount Gudao has been given a place to stay in the imperial city," one of them quickly said. The second person quickly said, "I have arranged for the people of our clan, and the powerful people of the other two clans to be scattered across the surrounding platforms. Although there are a lot of people, it was enough to accommodate them. I have been personally overseeing the layout of the grand ceremony to ensure its success. Please rest assured, Your Majesty. In terms of protection, the 1st to 7th armies will guard the ceremony to make sure nothing happens. The imperial teacher has sent word that he will personally come for the grand ceremony. Empress Song is the same as usual and still hasn't tea come out. She seems to be trying to remember something, but that always ends in pain and she does not remember anything. Grand Empyrean hasn't tea sent any word. I don't know if he will come to the grand ceremony. The 7 of them spoke one by one and then lowered their heads. They awaited the orders of this supreme existence in the ancient Tao. According to the rules, the grand ceremony will last for 99 days. Aside from offering to the ancient ancestor on the first day, I want tea participate for the rest. If anything happens, you all will be responsible. The man in royal robe gave his commands and the 7 immediately accepted. The grand ceremony will begin in 3 days. Every generation of ancient Tao emperor has held a banquet at the night before to allow the people of the ancient Tao and messengers from the other 2 nations to see the empress. How well have you all arranged this matter? One of the 7 respectfully said, It's all been arranged. Good. The man in the royal robe revealed a smile that contained a hint of anticipation. He waved his sleeve and disappeared from the pavilion. Marrying her and giving her this status are the best rewards for her. Imperial teacher, I am anticipating the result of your divination. At this moment, also in the palace, in a quiet room, there was a woman wearing a phoenix robe. This woman was not an absolute beauty but had an unspeakable temperament. She looked at the mirror before her, and her eyes were filled with confusion. I can remember everything in the dream is a blurry after waking up. I can remember what the woman looks like, and I can remember the man's appearance. I can only remember his words. The woman closed her eyes and those 2 lines echoed in her mind. Let's go, I'll take you to kill. Even if heaven wants you to die, I'll take you back. Tears flowed out of her closed eyes and down the sides of her face. The 2 lines of tears dripped down her cheeks and onto her clothes, making her clothes wet. Why would I shed tears? Who is he? Who am I? Am I Songji? Am I Songji? The woman opened her eyes and there was even more confusion now. Wang Lin didn't know about any of this, and he could not sense it. Although his cultivation had pierced the heavens, he still could not see her tears or feel her aura. Even if he saw her personally, he might not see who this woman was, because there was a fog covering everything about the soul fragment, and after his woman and Song Ji fused, this fog became even more intense. He didn't know that one soul fragment that he had been looking for was so close to him, so close. The woman also didn't know that the person she was confused about was breathing the same spiritual energy as her. In the morning before the grand ceremony, Wang Lin opened his eyes in the underground cave. There was a flash of doubt in his eyes, even though a 6 spell vein had appeared in his body. The source of his doubt was a sliver of unease that had appeared in his heart for some unknown reason. This sense of unease caused him to feel doubt. After silently pondering a bit, Wang Lin got up, walked out of the cave, and appeared in the wooden house. A human figure had appeared in the metal essence, and a body had begun to take shape. Longer than I expected, Wang Lin sat down and looked at the metal essence, suppressing the excitement in his heart. When the sun set, Wang Lin looked up and opened his mouth to swallow his 5 element essences back into his body. He then got up and pushed open the door. In the sunset, Xuan Luo was standing outside, smiling at Wang Lin. You have been in closed-door cultivation for 3 months. You don't have to participate in the grand ceremony tomorrow, but go to the banquet tonight in my place. I know you don't like lively places. Just go sit for a while, then come back. Wang Lin hesitated a bit. He really didn't want to go to this banquet, but since his teacher had asked him, Wang Lin nodded. Gift this to Yi Dao. Consider it my wedding gift to him. Xuan Luo smiled and handed a gift box to Wang Lin. After Wang Lin accepted it, he didn't look at it and clasped his hands at Xuan Luo. He flew into the air and flew toward the direction of the ancient Tao Imperial Palace. After handing him this gift, I'll leave and continue cultivating. My metal essence is about to form its true body, and nothing is more important right now. Wang Lin made up his mind, but at this moment, he felt that sense of unease again. Wang Lin frowned and looked at the Imperial Palace in the distance. Leo has a cold, with a sore throat and a bit of dizziness. not daring to promise if there will be a third watch today, doing his utmost to get through. All generations of ancient Tao emperors would prepare a banquet the night before the grand ceremony. The banquet would begin at sunset and end at sunrise. The people that participated in the banquet would also participate in the grand ceremony. At the evening banquet, the ancient Tao emperor would come out with the empress. This would be the first public appearance of the empress. After accepting the blessing of everyone, the empress would leave, but the emperor would stay with everyone throughout the night until the grand ceremony. The banquet was going to be held at the giant square outside the palace. The sun was about to set, and there were countless servants setting a large amount of tables in the square. There were thousands of tables. These tables formed a fan shape and seemed to be worshipping the palace. Hundreds of small platforms were floating in the sky above the palace. There were hundreds of tables on each of the platform, and they were used to welcome the people that were coming. When the time arrived, drum beats began to echo from the palace. The drums began to echo and roar across the palace. A giant drum thousands of feet wide appeared at the center of the palace. It was made of the skin of an unknown type of beast. The skin gave off an ancient and fierce aura. There were 9 people in black floating above the drum, and each of them had cultivation comparable to an Empyrean exalt. Each beat of the dream was created by the combined force of all 9 of them. Their power condensed into an illusionary palm that hit the drum. The drum beat echoed and didn't dissipate, but spread out like ripples. It enveloped the entire sky, shrouding the nearly 1,000 flying platforms. This allowed all the ancient clan members here to hear it. Thunderous rumbles were set off every once in a while, creating countless echoes. Whenever the sound started fading, another would be set off, causing the world to be immersed in the sound of the drum. When the third drum beat echoed, people came from the palace. There was a large amount of them, and at a glance it was not possible to count them all. They were all powerful. Although not comparable to Empyrean exalts, they were all comparable to third-step cultivators. These people each chose a table and sat down to talk to each other. The entire square began to buzz and became very lively. When the 5th drum beat echoed, rays of light flew through the sky. There were people of the ancient Tao and also people from the other 2 clans among them. Some chose to sit down in the square, and others sat down among the hundreds of floating platforms. More and more people came, and when the 7th drum beat echoed, thousands of rays of light flew across the sky. These rays of light seemed to fragment the sky, and all of them sat down. After the thousands of rays of light all sat down, 108 bright lights came from the horizon. They instantly arrived and revealed to be 108 ancient Tao members in white armor. These 108 people all bowed toward the palace, and then landed in the square. They picked tables close to the palace and sat down. The ancient Tao S108 Jin. The ancient Tao is divided into Jin, Saint, Fiend, King, and Immortal generals. The Jin have appeared, so the others should come shortly after. These 108 Jin have monstrous slaughter auras. That is why they are called Jin. The soft discussions that were covered up by the roar of the drum could not hide the gazes gathered on them. These gazes contained envy, gloominess, and evaluation. Just after the 108 people appeared, 72 tornadoes appeared in the distance. Each tornado had a person inside, and they were rushing toward the square. A powerful pressure suddenly descended and shrouded the area when the 72 tornadoes arrived. Inside them there were men and women, young and old, but each of them had the aura of a god, demon, or devil lord without exception. Then, when looking at their eyes and foreheads, one could see a total of 27 stars. 72 saints, the saints that have achieved great merits for the ancient Tao. I have long heard that the 72 saints only have 72 people, no more and no less. The saints have guarded the ancient Tao for countless years. Sounds of discussion echoed as another thunderous rumble echoed. It was the 8th drumbeat. As this drumbeat echoed, the earth trembled as if there were dragons moving beneath. At the same time, 36 rays of bloodlight descended from the sky, causing the sky to be dyed red. Even the sunset was covered by this bloodlight. 36 Zhangs. The ancient Tao clan S famous 36 Zhangs. They are the ancient Tao royal family S guards. 36 powerful guards created by the resources of the entire ancient Tao royal family for each generation of emperor. I heard that they are like death soldiers. The moment the ancient Tao emperor gives the command, they will self-destruct. How can they be called the 36 Zhangs? They are clearly 36 fiends. 36 burly men walked out of the red lights. They were covered in red mist, and it was impossible to see their appearance. They bowed at the main palace, and then sat before the saints. The drumbeat's echo continued. After the 36 people sat down, a thunderous rumble that suppressed the drum and the sounds of the nearly 100,000 people present rang out. This attracted the attention of everyone, and they saw 18 rifts torn by people in the sky. Then 18 pairs of black and red claws appeared from thin air. Thunderous roars echoed across the sky. When everyone's gazes had gathered in the sky, 18 black and red dragons came out of the 18 rifts. These 18 dragons gave off shocking demon auras. They were dragons with ancient demon auras. The 18 pairs of silver eyes gave off endless demonic energy, making these 18 dragons extremely fierce. After they appeared, they began to fly in circles in the sky, forming a huge vortex. The ancient Taoist kings. That S right. They are the demonic dragon mounts of the ancient Taoist kings. Since these dragons appeared, that means the kings have arrived. They are also of the royal family below the emperor, the kings of the ancient Tao. I heard that they are all very powerful and that 12 of them are usually not allowed to enter the capital because they have to guard the 12 countries. A huge uproar was set off when the 18 dragons appeared in the sky. In the distant sky, still far away from the palace, Wang Lin looked over. When the 18 demonic dragons appeared, they changed the worldly energy in the area. The storm they had created by forming the vortex could block divine sense. Ancient Taoist 18 kings. I wonder if Yimo was one of the 18 kings back then. Maybe I'll know at the feast. Wang Lin rubbed his chin. H had just come to the ancient Tao and had been in closed-door cultivation this whole time, so he hadn't had time to search for Yimo's descendants. However, this matter was still in his mind. After pondering, while the 8th drum beast still echoed, he walked toward the palace in the distance. However, the sense of unease became stronger the closer he got to the palace. This unease was not danger, but an indescribable feeling. With Wang Lin's cultivation level, he could sense matters of great importance to him ahead of time. However, no matter how much he thought, he could not figure what could happen at the royal banquet. As Wang Lin frowned and walked forward, the 18 demonic dragons descended to the square below. If one looked carefully, they would see a person standing on the head of each dragon. A total of 18 people that all looked different but possessed a hint of similarity. They all looked quite imposing as they walked down from the dragons. They sat at the seats closest to the main palace. When they sat down, the 18 demonic dragons let out roars and then returned into the rifts in the sky. The rifts disappeared and everything returned to normal. And at this moment, the 9th drum beat echoed and fused with the echo of the 8 beats from before. A monstrous roar echoed. This sound was loud enough to shake cultivators to death, and even the ancient clan members would find it difficult to deal with. However, strangely, no one here was affected by this sound. Wang Lin stepped forward and arrived above the palace at the 9th drum beat. He suddenly looked up and his pupils shrank slightly. He saw 9 rays of black light descend from the sky. The black lights were like huge pillars that supported the sky so it wouldn't collapse. Ripples echoed as the 9 rays of black light descended, revealing 9 giant men in black armor. These 9 people gave off intense killing intent, and one could even see countless ghosts around them. They didn't bow at the palace but looked at each other and then walked to the 9 tables before the kings. Before them there were still 4 more tables. Immortal generals. They should be the ancient Taoist 9 immortal generals. The 9 of them are comparable to ascendant Empyreans who have broken through the palace. One of them has even reached the level of being able to break through the palace. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and walked forward as the 9th drum beat echoed. His appearance immediately attracted the gazes of many people here. Leo goes to the hospital with his wife, then directly to pick up his daughter from school, continuing the storytelling upon return. Wang Lin was used to being gazes focused on him at these kinds of events. His expression remained the same as his white clothes fluttered, and he calmly walked forward. This person, who is he? He came alone and dared to come at the 9th drum beat. Could it be that he has some special identity? This person is very unfamiliar. Soft discussions began among the crowds as Wang Lin walked past the thousands of people, 108 jinns, 72 saints, 36 zhangs. As he walked forward, more and more gaze gathered on him, and the buzz became louder and louder. Where is he going to sit? He dares to head to the front. 2 of the 4 seats in the front are prepared for the Grand Empyrean and the Imperial Teacher. The last 2 seats are reserved for the 2 ancestors of the ancient Tao that are still alive. Among the last 4 remaining seats, 1 was in front with 3 behind it. As Wang Lin walked toward the 18 kings, 7 of them actually stood up and clasped their hands at Wang Lin. With this, the 100,000 people went into an uproar, and the discussions became even more intense than when the kings and 9 immortal generals entered. Wang Lin paused for a moment and smiled at the 7 people that had bowed toward him. Then he walked toward the 9 immortal generals enveloped in black auras. Out of the 9, 8 remained silent, but the person who was equal to an ascendant Empyrean who passed the TAH palace let out a cold snort and his eyes lit up. He suddenly stood up as if he wanted to prevent Wang Lin from flying over him. But just as he was about to stand up, Wang Lin's cold gaze looked over and there was a flash of red killing intent in his eyes. A shocking pressure spread out from Wang Lin's body and then suddenly dissipated. Although it was only for an instant, it caused the person who was going to stand up to tremble. He was in shock and could not stand up. His eyes became filled with fear and he sat back down. At this moment his mind was rumbling and cold sweat had covered his body. Wang Lin's gaze had caused him to feel as if he was trapped in slaughter and was killed by Wang Lin hundreds of thousands of times. It was as if he had entered an illusion where he was constantly killed. He had never experienced this kind of feeling before. That gaze seemed to have rushed into his body, crushed his internal organs, scraped his bones and flesh, and then devoured his soul. His heartbeat rapidly accelerated as if it was going to collapse. The moment he sat back down again, Wang Lin landed on the ground and arrived before the forwardmost table in this fan-shaped seating arrangement. He looked at the hundreds of flying platforms and the hundreds of thousands of people at the square before he waved his sleeve and calmly sat down. The moment he sat down, a huge uproar was set off across the square. Who is he? He sat in the position of the ancient Taoist Grand Empyrean. The pressure that person released was extremely powerful and actually made me feel like my heart stopped. His ancient power is unfathomable and he is definitely not a normal person. I heard that the ancient Taoist Grand Empyrean announced that he has accepted a disciple. Could he be Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's disciple? But he is so young. It indeed is him. White-haired Ascendant Empyrean. I didn't expect this person to really be Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's disciple. What? He is the white-haired Ascendant Empyrean? Isn't he the white-haired Ascendant Empyrean a member of the Celestial clan? It is said that he is number 1 below Grand Empyreans. There is even rumor he's the 10th son of the immortal astral continent. Those that recognize Wang Lin were of the royal family, like Prince Ji-du. The members of the ancient Tao were more in the know because they knew about Wang Lin. However, the members of the other clans had extremely complicated expressions as they looked at Wang Lin. There were hidden hints of fear in their eyes. In truth, they weren't completely unaware of Wang Lin. Xuan Luo had brought Wang Lin to the ancient Ji and ancient Shi. Aside from coming to send their congratulatory gifts, they had also come to observe the power of the ancient Tao. Among the gazes that looked at Wang Lin, one of them was filled with excitement. This gaze came from one of the floating platforms where Prince Ji-du was. Prince Ji-du had watched Wang Lin appear until he caught the attention of everyone here. He looked at how calm Wang Lin was and let out a deep breath. Godfather's name is known by the ancient clan. Godfather's name is enough to shock everyone. If Godfather can help me, Prince Ji-du clenched his fist. Wang Lin ignored all the gazes that were gathered on him. He sat there and closed his eyes, but at this moment, his heart was very unsettled. It was as if an inner demon had taken over, and he felt himself losing control. This feeling appeared after Wang Lin started making his way to the palace and came from the unease he had felt before. It suddenly erupted when he sat down, which shocked him. Although it could be suppressed, it affected Wang Lin's mood. Otherwise, when the immortal general stood up, Wang Lin wouldn't have revealed a hint of his cultivation there. That level of character was not qualified to make him do that. At that moment, Wang Lin even had the crazed thought of killing that person and killing everyone here. What is the reason? Why would I become like this upon arriving at the ancient Tao Palace? Wang Lin closed his eyes and cycled his cultivation. His mind slowly calmed down. but he became even more gloomy. Something is not right. Could it be that the palace activated some restrictions to affect me like this? However, looking around, no restrictions seemed to be activated. Wang Lin opened his eyes and silently sat there. And this crazed feeling transformed from the unease. I vaguely felt it a few days ago, and now it is even more intense. It feels as if something of great importance to me is going to happen. It seems like it will be a big event in my life, even when I faced countless life and death situations. I never felt like this. Wang Lin couldn't help but frown. I can stay at the ancient Tao Palace for long. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he made up his mind. At this moment, the 9th drum beat gradually faded away. When the drum beat disappeared, everyone in the square and on the flying platform suddenly quieted down. Everyone subconsciously stopped talking and their gazes gathered on the main hall. The Emperor arrives! A sharp and shrill voice came from the hall. It carried a powerful penetrating force. Then the closed door opened. As the door was pushed open, all the gazes gathered on the hall, at the man sitting on a dragon throne. This man was wearing a royal robe and an emperor crown. He gave off a powerful pressure without revealing any anger. It was the ancient Tao Emperor. We all greet the Emperor. On the square and platforms, everyone, including the kings, all bowed at the ancient Tao Emperor. Non-ancient Tao members didn't have to kneel, but all ancient Tao members had to get down on one knee. Wang Lin stood up, and after silently pondering for a bit, he bowed but didn't kneel. Although his expression looked normal, that crazed feeling of slaughter washed over his mind like a raging wave. He almost could not suppress it. This feeling became extremely violent the moment the ancient Tao Emperor appeared. Everyone, this is a joyous matter for me. Let us celebrate with this banquet, and all of you drink with me. The ancient Tao Emperor smiled, but when his gaze swept past Wang Lin, his heart was unhappy and gloomy. However, his expression remained the same, and he even smiled at Wang Lin as if he was concerned. I am very happy that all these friends could come to my ancient Tao. Today I won't say much. Let me raise a cup to all the friends that came. The ancient Tao Emperor raised his right hand, and a shadow appeared to hand him a cup of wine. At the same time, everyone on the square and platforms picked up the wine on their tables. They all respectfully held up their cups of wine. Wang Lin silently let out a sigh and picked up the wine cup. He intended to hand over his teacher's gift after this cup and then leave. The irritation in his heart had caused his face to turn slightly pale. The ancient Tao Emperor smiled and took a sip. Everyone else drank afterward as a congratulations. Wang Lin didn't drink but put his cup down with everyone else and was about to speak. Aside from this joyous event, I also want to announce another matter. Some of you may have heard that Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo's disciple, the Celestial Clan's white-haired Ascendant Empyrean, will be the guardian of my ancient Tao. Wang Lin, come up and listen to the edict. The ancient Tao Emperor smiled. Wang Lin silently walked forward a few steps and clasped his hands once more. Still not kneeling? The ancient Tao Emperor's expression was heavy. He didn't speak, but calmly looked at Wang Lin. After a long time, everyone noticed that abnormality, and their gazes gathered on Wang Lin. Among the many gazes, one came from the Prince Jidu. He suppressed the excitement in his heart. He was waiting for the day that Wang Lin would be pushed out of the ancient Tao. Emperor, I came to send a congratulatory gift on behalf of teacher. I still have important matters to deal with, so I'll take my leave. Wang Lin no longer had any patience, as he was extremely irritated right now, and he coldly looked at the emperor. He didn't know why, but when he saw this person again, he felt an unspeakable sense of killing intent and disgust. He waved his sleeve and took out the box Xuan Luo had given him. He threw it forward, and it was caught by a shadow that had appeared before the ancient Tao Emperor. The shadow respectfully handed it to the ancient Tao Emperor. Wang Lin, I declare you as my ancient Tao's guardian. Since you have some important matters to attend to, then you can leave. I hope you can come to the grand ceremony tomorrow. The ancient Tao Emperor looked at Wang Lin profoundly and smiled. He seemed to not care about what had happened and no longer looked at Wang Lin. Then the ancient Tao Emperor said, "Invite the Empress." The irritation in Wang Lin's heart became even stronger, and he turned to leave. But then the sounds of bells echoed in his ears and fused with the feeling in his heart. This made the irritation in his heart suddenly disappear without a trace. Wang Lin was startled and looked back. He saw a woman wearing a phoenix robe walk out of the hall and make her way toward the ancient Tao Emperor. Leo steps out without his laptop charger. The computer has no power, so he reads the chapters using his phone, typing manually. Tears are flowing. The woman was wearing a very colorful phoenix dress, giving her a noble temperament. She lowered her head, but her face was covered in a bead curtain, hiding her frown as she walked toward the ancient Tao Emperor. That sound of bells did not actually come from bells, but from the collision of the beads that covered her face. At this moment, all members of the 3 clans on the square and platforms looked at this woman. She was not an absolute beauty, but there was an indescribable feeling about her. She was very soft and comfortable, as if she could calm the soul. Her temperament was serene. Like the vast valley's silent beauty, only when a bird accidentally flew by from high above could it see the beauty of this place. As Wang Lin stood there, the irritation in his heart disappeared the moment the woman appeared, as if it had never been there. Wang Lin immediately recognized this woman. He remembered when he first saw this woman outside of Blackstone City. The ancient Tao Emperor revealed a hint of joy. As the woman walked up, he waved his sleeve and spoke, "Empress, come sit next to me. Today is a joyous event of my ancient Tao and an important day for us." The steps of the phoenix-dressed woman paused for a moment before she silently walked to the ancient Tao Emperor's dragon throne and gently sat down. She raised her head and looked outside at the square. She was still frowning, and her face contained a hidden sense of confusion, giving people the sense that she was helpless. The moment she raised her head, the first thing she saw was Wang Lin looking at her. In this instant, their gazes collided inside the palace. When their gazes intersected, Wang Lin felt his mind rumble. This came too suddenly, as if countless bolts of thunder had exploded at once. At his moment, his entire body, his origin soul, and even his soul trembled. It was as if this woman was an indispensable part of his life. Wang Lin's expression changed as he stared at the woman, and his heartbeat accelerated. This woman gave him a familiar feeling, but it was hidden behind a curtain of fog. Wang Lin couldn't think of the source of this feeling. Wan Li Chame Jo Ru Red Butterfly. Wang Lin looked at the woman's eyes, and a list of faces appeared in his mind. However, he could not find the source of this familiarity. She doesn't seem like any of them. When Wang Lin took a closer look, he found the woman to be very unfamiliar and greatly different from what he expected. Wang Lin, a voice that wasn't loud but filled with majesty, echoed in Wang Lin's ears. "Has my empress attracted your attention so?" The ancient Tao Emperor looked at Wang Lin with a flash of coldness in his eyes. He was the emperor, and everyone else had only taken one look at his empress before withdrawing their eyes. Yet this Wang Lin had continued to stare. He was already dissatisfied with Wang Lin, and now his words were cold as he frowned. Wang Lin silently pondered and seemed to awaken thanks to the ancient Tao Emperor's words. He revealed a complicated gaze and ignored the ancient Tao Emperor but still looked at the phoenix-dressed woman. He wanted to find the source of familiarity on this woman, but as he looked, he let out a sigh and revealed a melancholy gaze. He didn't know this woman. He vaguely found the root of this familiarity. It was her temperament. This calm temperament was very similar to Li Muan's. It can be one it's just as similar in temperament. It's just an illusion with Wang Lin's current cultivation level. If this woman was really Li Muan, he would be able to tell at a glance. However, no matter how much he looked, he could not find any of Li Muan's aura. Wan airs inside the heaven avoiding coffin, and her soul fragment is missing. I can find it. This woman is not her. It's just that there are people with very similar temperament in this world. Wang Lin closed his eyes to cover the sorrow within them. The woman's face was slightly red, and there was anger in her eyes, as if she was unhappy with Wang Lin's gaze. She didn't know why, but deep down, she felt a sense of familiarity. But as soon as this feeling appeared, it would strangely dissipate as if it didn't exist. I am asking you a question." The ancient Tao Emperor raised his left hand and slammed down on the armrest of the dragon throne. There was a loud bang, but no damage was done to the armrest. However, at this instant, more than a dozen sources of killing intent locked onto Wang Lin at the same time. They were hiding in the hall like strands of smoke, and as soon as the emperor gave the command, they would attack. Also at this moment, the people at the square and the hundreds of platforms noticed that something was abnormal. They had strange gazes as they looked at Wang Lin and the slightly angry woman in the phoenix dress. This woman looks a lot like my old friend Wang Lin opened his eyes and saw the indignation in her eyes. He was now certain she is not the one he was looking for. However, the similarity in temperament evoked Wang Lin's sorrow and heart-wrenching pain. Oh? The ancient Tao Emperor's eyes lit up an undetectable amount. He looked at the woman and then at Wang Lin. Then he suddenly revealed an elusive smile. The ancient Tao Emperor said, "Empress, do you recognize the future guardian of my ancient Tao?" The woman in the phoenix dress lowered her head and shook her head. The imperial teacher said that this soul fragment was sealed by him and no fluctuations would spread out. Even if the people closest to the soul fragment appeared, they wouldn't be able to detect it. Unless that person has divination power beyond that of the imperial teacher, not even Grand Empyreans can detect it. The ancient Tao Emperor smiled faintly. Interesting. Could this soul fragment really be related to this Wang Lin? The ancient Tao Emperor was pleasantly surprised, but he still maintained that elusive smile. The ancient Tao Emperor slowly said, "Perhaps you both might really know each other. My Empress, walk down to my ancient Tao's future guardian and let him have a closer look. If you two really know each other, it would be a joyous event." The woman in the phoenix dress gently stood up and looked at Wang Lin before slowly walking down. Wang Lin looked at her, and, for a moment, he felt like it was Li Muan walking toward him. Even his heart and body trembled. The woman stopped 10 feet away from Wang Lin, and the indignation in her eyes became even stronger. Wang Lin felt a very cold but familiar feeling. It made him forget that he was at the ancient Tao Palace, forget that he was at the ancient clan, forget that he was at the immortal astral continent, and he was back in the cave world. As they stared at each other, the sadness in his eyes seemed like it could melt the world. The sadness was seen by the woman, and she suddenly felt pain in her heart. Confusion appeared in her eyes, but soon the confusion disappeared and turned back into indignation. "You are not her." After a long time, Wang Lin revealed a bitter expression. He suddenly wanted to get drunk so he could forget this pain and sorrow from his soul. He knew that what he had felt was just an illusion. But this illusion made him recall the past from thousands of years ago and made his sorrow even more intense. He staggered back a few steps. Wang Lin didn't look at the woman again, or at the ancient Tao Emperor, but he didn't leave. He returned to his table and sat down. He looked at the table for a long time before he grabbed the wine jug and took a big gulp. However, although this wine was spicy, it was not enough to make him drunk. Wang Lin rarely cried, but as he drank, tears flowed down from the corners of his eyes. These tears flowed into his mouth with the wine and tasted very bitter. It was like the taste of his sadness. The woman in the phoenix dress returned to the Emperor's side and calmed down. She kept her head lowered and didn't say a word. The smile on the ancient Tao Emperor's face widened, and his gaze sometimes fell on Wang Lin. There were flashes of pride and joy in his eyes. It looks like it is very likely that Wang Lin knows the soul fragment, and the confusion that appeared was likely due to Wang Lin. Unfortunately, no matter what your cultivation level is, no matter how much soul blood you have, and even with Xuan Luo as your teacher, the greatest sorrow is that you can even recognize each other when you're right in front of each other. But this makes me very excited. The ancient Tao Emperor raised his cup and drank with the 100,000 people that had come to the banquet. According to the tradition of the ancient Tao, he should let the woman leave, but he didn't do this and instead made her stay. He continued to look at Wang Lin. It was as if this gave him the greatest satisfaction and pleasure. Due to the ancient Tao Emperor, the banquet had reached a peak. The crowds were filled with words of congratulations. It was very lively. In this lively mess, Wang Lin silently sat there and drank mouthfuls of wine. The sadness in his eyes would not be washed away by the wine. "Empress, Guardian Wang's mood seems down. You go drink with him for me." The ancient Tao Emperor smiled. Leo's speech is often puzzling, what with all the wishing for likes on the video and sharing Leo's work, leading the audience to erupt in laughter. The comment section filled with a lively atmosphere. The woman in the phoenix dress let out a sigh. She really didn't like this lively scene. In particular, Wang Lin's gaze made her feel a stab of pain in her heart, and not even she knew why this was happening. However, every time she tried to think about it, she just felt more confused. She gently got up and a shadow immediately appeared behind her, and handed her a cup of wine. It floated behind her as she walked out of the palace, went into the crowded square, and made her way toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin was sitting there with his head lowered. In this short period of time, he had drunk 7 or 8 jugs of wine. He looked up at the woman standing before him, and his eyes seemed to become blurry again. The woman looked at Wang Lin and was about to speak. "Do you know how to play the zither?" Wang Lin asked bitterly. After he spoke, he shook his head and laughed at himself. He picked up the wine jug and touched the wine cup in the woman's hand. He drank the entire jug, and then turned into a ray of light, flying into the distance. Drops of wine scattered, and one drop landed on the woman's face. It was very cold. "Winer, where is your soul?" Wang Lin disappeared into the sky, but the woman vaguely heard his voice. This voice was filled with sadness. She was not the only one who had heard it. Some of the people in the square and on the platforms had heard it too. The ancient Tao Emperor also heard this, and the smile on the corner of his mouth became wider. He picked up the wine cup and took a sip. He didn't see. Wang Lin didn't see, and no one here saw that when the woman in the phoenix dress heard the words Wan Er, she revealed a struggling expression and confusion. However, it soon disappeared, and her expression became hollow. She walked back to the palace with a hollow expression. Behind her, the lively bustling of the party began once more. I am willing to turn the entire sky upside down just to find your reflection. I would light the entire sky on fire just to give you a reason to no longer close your eyes. I would strike the entire world with thunder just so you could hear my voice. I have walked millions of kilometers and through countless worlds just to find your breath. I became a devil to kill Tao and have defied the heavens to subvert the heaven and earth. I stood before you with my bleak and lonely back just so you could open those eyes of yours that calm me down. Where is your soul? Tears flowed down Wang Lin's eyes as he walked through the brightly lit ancient Tao imperial city. As he silently walked forward, his back revealed bleakness and loneliness. Reveal character. His sorrow had always been buried deep inside his heart and was always covered by indifference. It would not easily appear, but when he saw that familiar temperament, Wang Lin could no longer cover it up and deceive himself. His tears flowed. As he silently walked away, his tears dropped on the roofs of the houses he passed by. The lively sounds from the palace could still be heard, but Wang Lin didn't want to listen. He wanted to find a place where he could quietly be by himself and recount his memories. He returned to the ancient Tao temple and returned to his own house. He sat down inside the house and had no heart to cultivate or look at the grand Empyrean sun in the cave world. He looked out at the colorful world for a long, long time. I have heaven-piercing cultivation, but so what? I have the will to defy the heavens, but what of it? Even though I am the guardian of the ancient Tao, I can find Wan Er's soul. Wang Lin's face was filled with pain. He was unwilling to think about this problem. He had used his cultivation as an excuse to numb and deceive himself of all this. He had told himself that this was the only hope in finding Wan Er's soul. However, he had cheated himself for thousands of years, but now when he saw Xianxia, who looked like Wan Er, he was unable to control his feelings. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin locked himself inside the house and bore the heart-wrenching pain. He recalled the memories of the past. He could only rely on his memories to no longer feel lonely. Like the ancestor of the Dong Lin sect, who stayed in the dead sect, and was only accompanied by his memories. In this world there is someone else with such a temperament, but she is not Wan Er, she is Xianxia. I once met her back in Blackstone City after a long time. Wang Lin forced down the pain and memories in his heart. He didn't want to make himself vulnerable. It would not help him find Wan Er's soul. With a deep sigh, Wang Lin closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, there was calmness. However, hidden deep within the calmness, there was still sorrow. Xianxia, as Wang Lin muttered. He raised his right hand and an overlapping shadow walked out from him. His 5-element true body walked out, and in the middle was a massive golden light. A shadow was inside this light. It was the metal essence true body that was about to form. Wang Lin forced himself to be calm and no longer think about this matter. He told himself that Xianxia was not Wang Er. He closed his eyes and was going to rely on cultivation to make himself stop recalling the past. But just as Wang Lin closed his eyes, he suddenly reopened them. His eyes revealed monstrous golden light and a hint of shock. That's Yee. I meet that Xianxia outside of Blackstone City. Back then, that woman didn't give the feeling she did back at the palace. She was very ordinary, although elegant, not like what I felt back at the palace. Wang Lin's body trembled. If she had been the same as back at the palace, there is no way I wouldn't have noticed it back outside Blackstone City. I should have felt that hint of familiarity back then. But back then, I didn't feel anything at all. Yet when I saw her again at the palace, I had that familiar feeling. Something is not right. The ancient Tao Emperor has searched for a concubine for hundreds of years and finally chose one. Xianxia is not an absolute beauty, so why was she chosen? What kind of woman did the ancient Tao Emperor spend hundreds of years searching for? Why did Xianxia feel so different when I saw her again at the palace? Why did I feel so upset when I went toward the palace and after I arrived? Why did killing intent appear when I saw the ancient Tao Emperor? Why did it call disappear when I saw Xianxia? Wang Lin suddenly stood up, and his body trembled. His eyes shined brightly and lit up the whole house. His hair moved without any wind as if a hidden power was about to erupt. But I scanned her with my divine sense and wasn't able to find anything wrong. She was completely normal, only her temperament gave me a sense of familiarity. Why is this so? Wang Lin's heart trembled. He could hear his own heartbeat accelerate. This kind of feeling was extremely rare for him. This was excitement, hesitation, and a mix of doubt and confusion. This was a tremor from disbelief or uncertainty. A fire seemed to be suppressed in his heart, and it was suppressed to the point of erupting. Hundreds of years of selection, the huge gap between Xianxia before and now in the end. What is this secret that is driving me mad? Wang Lin's expression became distorted, and he could barely control himself. He wanted to rush into the palace and capture the ancient Tao Emperor to soul search him. But he could not. He was Xuanluo's disciple, and Xuanluo was the guardian of the ancient Tao. Xuanluo was his teacher and had helped him greatly. If he didn't have any evidence and went to the palace to kill the emperor, he would not be able to live with himself. He would not be able to face the teacher that had helped him so much. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he raised his right hand. A black jade suddenly appeared in his hand. This jade gave off a dark and ghostly light, as if taking one look at it would trap your gaze. This jade was given to him by a esteemed green bull back in the Great Soul sect. It came from the Dao Wang clan's genius who had planned everything to gain freedom for his clan. The genius who had taken out his own brain and heart and knelt before a statue of Wang Lin as if he was begging for forgiveness. It also looked like he was weighing the importance of his heart or mind as well. This jade can help you divinate the future. Once Wang Lin thought of the words that came from the jade. Without hesitation, he crushed the jade and muttered a few chants. He opened his right hand and the jade turned into black gas. The black gas condensed into a little person who kowtowed 9 times in Wang Lin's palm. The moment it kowtowed, Wang Lin's mind rumbled and he saw the cave world. He saw a crystal clear hand take Li Muan's soul fragment from the heavenly Tao. In a room he saw a vague shadow covered in 7-colored light, holding a bead in his hand. This bead contained Li Muan's soul fragment. He heard the vague shadow whisper something that shocked man in a royal robe. He saw the surprise on the man in the royal robe, then the man took the soul away. The man spent hundreds of years picking a concubine to fuse with the soul and failed. Finally, Wang Lin saw a familiar woman. She was Xianxia, and she had fused with the soul. He saw the man in the royal robe pinch her cheek until the pain caused tears to flow from the eyes of the unconscious woman in the palace. And he heard the words of the man in the royal robe. The man in the royal robe was the ancient Tao Emperor. Yi Dao, I am going to kill you. Wang Lin opened his eyes, and they were red from madness. His hair moved, and he let out a roar that could tear apart the heavens and destroy the imperial power. This roar contained a sense of madness and anger that was willing to destroy the world and give up his life without any hesitation. This was the most violent roar Wang Lin had let out since he was born, and it made the world tremble. This was Wang Lin filled with rage. Leo holds a stuffed bear close to his chest, muttering prayers for likes on the video, sprinkling followers in his shares as the children beside him start to crave. Wang Lin's roar spread out and shrouded a small portion of the imperial city. This shocked the hearts of everyone who heard it, and their faces were filled with horror. Right now, most of the people had gone to the banquet, but there were even more people who were not qualified to go. They had to wait until tomorrow to view the ceremony from within the city. Therefore, there were still many people from the three clans around, and sounds of music were echoing. Spirits were high, and the atmosphere was very joyous. However, when Wang Lin let out the crazed howl of Yi Dao, "I am going to kill you," it shocked everyone and the music suddenly stopped. The lively atmosphere and joy dissipated and was replaced with dead silence. Only the bright and colorful lights still dazzled, but there was a cold intent in the air. Whose voice is that? Yi Dao isn't he that the name of the ancient Dao emperor? This person dares to say such arrogant words in the ancient Dao imperial city? After a brief moment of silence, the area that was touched by Wang Lin's howl was shrouded by cries of shock. Inside the ancient Dao temple, the 9 people under Xuan Luo were the closest to him. They opened their eyes in shock and looked up toward Wang Lin's valley behind the ancient Dao temple. At the center of the ancient Dao temple, there was a completely sealed space. Xuan Luo was calmly sitting there with his eyes closed. He could feel that the time of his reincarnation was not far away. He wanted to refine Wang Lin, a powerful faith treasure, before he reincarnated. Before him floated a 5-colored sword. This sword was very strange. It had 4 blades. It didn't look like a sword, more like a fork. Even at the edge, there was a hidden 5th blade that looked like it could appear at any moment. Every once in a while, Xuan Luo would spit out a mouthful of green gas that surrounded the 5-colored sword. "I have refined this sword for a very long time, and now 4 blades have appeared. It is a critical moment, but once the 5th blade appears, it will be a powerful treasure for Wang Lin." Xuan Luo opened his eyes and smiled. There was even a hint of self-pride in his expression. After asking Wang Lin to send the gift to the ancient Dao emperor, he had gone into closed-door cultivation to refine a faith treasure for him. He felt that after becoming Wang Lin's teacher, he still hadn't given him a powerful treasure, and he felt like he owed Wang Lin one. He had chosen to go into closed-door cultivation, and a majority of his divine sense was shrouded around the sword, so he couldn't withdraw his divine sense in a short period of time. However, just as he opened his eyes, he heard a crazed roar that wanted to destroy the world come from the wooden house in the valley. This roar was filled with killing intent that could shake the world, and the words in that roar completely startled Xuan Luo. He suddenly got up and looked behind him. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce the mountain and see everything inside the wooden house. What the hell happened? Xuan Luo felt his heart drop and felt like something big was happening. He waved his sleeve and quickly withdrew his divine sense. However, the sword had reached a critical moment in its refinement process, so it would take half an instant of time to withdraw his divine sense. Feeling anxious, Xuan Luo quickly sent a message to his 9 followers in the ancient Dao temple. "Go to Wang Lin's place to find the reason. You must stabilize him until I get there. Don't make a big deal of this matter." Inside the wooden house, as Wang Lin's roar echoed, countless ripples echoed and spread across the area. These ripples contained Wang Lin's crazed howl, his conviction to kill the ancient Dao emperor, and also the destructive power inside his body. As the roar echoed, the wooden bed Wang Lin was sitting on turned to dust. The wooden chair, table, and the entire house collapsed to dust. As the ripples echoed, a huge storm was formed inside the valley. As the storm swept across the valley, the trees, grass, stone table, river, and everything inside the valley was turned to ash. The storm swept them all away into the sky. Wang Lin was floating in the center of the storm. His hair was scattered, and his eyes were abnormally red. He was emitting a monstrous killing intent. He had gone crazy. He had never been as crazed as he was now. It was as if his heart was being cut apart by a knife. Before him, the metal essence in his 5-element true body suddenly collapsed due to his rage. Then the metal essence true body suddenly formed. When his metal essence true body appeared, the true body flew into the air, and the rest of the 5-element true body flew into the air as well. The 5 elements fused together before Wang Lin to form a complete 5-element true body. The 5-element true body was covered in a 5-colored light. Its eyes were closed, but now it suddenly opened its eyes, and they were filled with madness as well. Wang Lin jumped into the air, and his hair moved without any wind. His right hand reached toward his 5-element true body. The 5-element true body jumped up and fused with Wang Lin. At this moment, Wang Lin let out another roar. As he roared, his cultivation level began to rise from late-stage void tribulent to peak void tribulent. This confirmed that Wang Lin's speculation about his future cultivation path was true. This should have made him very happy, but right now, Wang Lin didn't feel this change in cultivation level. The only thought in his mind was to slaughter his way to the palace, kill the ancient Tao Emperor, and steal back Wan Er. His body was surrounded by a violent aura, and he waved his hand at the valley. The entire earth trembled, and the entire ancient Tao mountain seemed to shake. In the cave underground, Wang Lin's Grand Empyrean Son and the celestial ancestor head flew up. A crack appeared above the cave, and Wang Lin's Grand Empyrean Son brought the head out through the crack. However, just at this moment, the 9 people who had heard Xuan Luo's message arrived. The 9 rays of light pierced through the sky and arrived above the valley. At a glance, they could see that this place was in ruins. They saw the crack in the storm that had swept this place. Inside the storm was Wang Lin. His hair was scattered and he gave off a shocking, killing intent. "Young master, you. What happened? Young master, please calm down." The 9 of us came under the command of Lord Xuan to inquire. "Young master, please tell us." The 9 of them were shocked and they clasped their hands at Wang Lin. Inside the storm, Wang Lin's eyes were cold and his right hand reached toward the ground once more. He let out another roar, and the cracks split open even more. A ray of black and white light flew out, instantly fusing with Wang Lin. The celestial ancestor head flew out as a ray of golden light and was put away into Wang Lin's storage space. Having done all of this, Wang Lin suddenly turned and locked onto the ancient Tao Imperial City. "Yi Dao." Wang Lin clenched his teeth and didn't even look at the 9 of them. He looked toward the palace and walked in its direction like thunder. However, just as Wang Lin moved, the expressions of the 9 of them changed and they got in front of Wang Lin to block him. 7 of them formed seals and a gas spread out from the ancient Tao temple. This gas turned into a large formation. The 9 of them didn't hesitate to open the formation of the ancient Tao temple to stop Wang Lin. Wang Lin's figure paused for a moment and looked up. His bloodshot eyes revealed monstrous killing intent. "You dare to stop me?" The old man with the highest cultivation level looked at Wang Lin with fear in his eyes. His scalp was numb as he clasped his hands and said, "Young master, please don't be angry. We are following Lord Xuan's order to make young master stay. After Lord Xuan arrives, a decision can be made." Teacher Xuan Luo. Wang Lin's head felt a stab of pain. He knew that Xuan Luo was the guardian of the ancient Tao, and even the current ancient Tao Emperor had been chosen by Xuan Luo. But now he was going to scram for me. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with decisiveness. He was going to kill the ancient Tao Emperor before Xuan Luo arrived, so it wouldn't make things too difficult for his teacher. This was Wang Lin's only path. The expressions of the 9 of them changed when a Grand Empyrean Sun appeared behind Wang Lin. This sun was more solid than back at Mount Gudao. When the sun appeared, the pupils of the 9 people all shrank. "Grand Empyrean! This is a Grand Empyrean Sun. He's actually a Grand Empyrean." The 9 of them were filled with disbelief as Wang Lin lifted his right hand and waved. The world rumbled and the formation around the ancient Tao temple collapsed. The 9 of them coughed out blood and were knocked back by the impact. Wang Lin didn't kill them. He turned into a ray of light and rushed out of the valley. A ray of red light slaughtered its way toward the palace. "Leo's birthday has passed. Thank you all for your blessings, your praise. Leo will continue to strive, producing increasingly captivating chapters. Brothers, keep your sharp tongues sheathed, stored away carefully." Chapter 202 wiped out completely. Wang Lin's eyes were cold. He glanced at Qian Kun and asked, "Is your master Hunchback Meng?" Qian Kun's body trembled. If he had any doubts before, they all disappeared when he heard that question. It had to be said that the Poison King's enchanted palace's Meng Jing Fan was a very well-known name in the Sea of Devils. No matter which senior, when talking about Meng Jing Fan, they would refer to him as Senior Meng. Even among the people with the same amount of fame, they would at least refer to him as Prince Meng. Besides reaching the spiriting forming stage, which was very rare in the Sea of Devils, there were his poison techniques. These poison attacks were hard to guard against. They were tasteless and colorless. Many had died of these poisons before they even realized what had happened. Adding to all of this was Meng Qingfan's eccentric personality. One wrong word and he would wipe out your whole sect. There once was a sect in the Sea of Devils. Although they didn't have any spirit-forming experts, they had quite a few late-stage Yuan Ying experts, making them one of the strongest sects in the Sea of Devils. One of the sect's Yuan Ying disciples met Hunchback Meng. Forget not knowing his identity, he even mocked Hunchback Meng. That night, Meng Qingfan walked into the sect by himself. 1 hour later, when he left, all 3,960 people of the sect, including the inner disciples, outer disciples, all of the workers, and even those late-stage Yuan Ying experts, all died. When Meng Qingfan killed people, he liked to leave behind the reason. That was why others knew about the things he had done. As a result, Meng Qingfan's ruthlessness would make the face of anyone in the Sea of Devils pale. There were only a few people in the Sea of Devil that dared to call him Hunchback Meng. After Qian Kun heard Wang Lin's words just now, he was even more sure about his guesses. Qian Kun didn't dare to lie and quickly said, "See, Senior, Elder Meng is indeed my sect's ancestor." After saying this, he clenched his jaw. Without waiting for Wang Lin to speak, he spoke the secret he knew. It seemed that a few years ago, Qian Kun heard the current head talk about ancestor Meng Qingfan, that he wasn't missing, but went into the chaotic broken stars. And it seemed that it was the second time he had gone there. He also heard that if a large rift were to appear in the chaotic broken stars, that means the ancestor has come back. Qian Kun bore this in mind when he first heard it, but a long time had passed, and it didn't have anything to do with him, so he had gradually forgotten. As a result, when he saw the rift open, he felt a sense of familiarity, but didn't think too deeply about it. But after he answered Wang Lin's question, he felt as if he was hit by lightning and immediately remembered it. This was why his expression suddenly changed. A rift opened up in the chaotic broken stars, but the ancestor didn't return. Even the other spirit-forming cultivators like Duanmu, Sixth Desire Devil Lord, and Ancient Emperor didn't come out. Instead, it was this young man that appeared. This caused him to speculate many things. After Wang Lin finished listening, he muttered to himself, which caused Qian Kun to become very tense. Qian Kun clenched his jaw. He moved his hand over his bag of holding and suddenly threw out black sand. He started to escape without looking back. The black sand released a fishy smell. After it appeared, it immediately made a minor exploding sound. Wang Lin laughed at him in his heart. He didn't dodge the sand but slammed his bag of holding and his poisonous sword came out. The poisonous sword quickly flew through the black sands a few times, causing all of the black sand to suddenly light up in a green flame. Sounds of breaking could be heard. All of the black sand turned into green smoke and was absorbed by the poisonous sword. All of this happened very quickly. In almost the same instant that Qian Kun threw out the black sand and started to escape, Wang Lin's poisonous sword had already absorbed it all. This time, Qian Kun's heart shook again. His body started to release a cold feel. He quickly urged his spirit power to move faster. Wang Lin's face remained bleak. He pointed his finger at this brow. Suddenly, from his consciousness, flew out a black shadow. The black shadow shot out of Wang Lin's consciousness like lightning and out through the star on his forehead. The devil Shu Liguo came out with a joyous scream that echoed in the surrounding. "I am finally free! I almost bored to death! Boy, don't run! Let your grandpa Shu devour you. In order to repay you for allowing me to come out again, I'll let you die with as little pain as possible." The moment the voice could be heard, the devil Shu Ligu became like smoke and caught up to Qian Kun. Qian Kun had an aghast expression when Shu Ligu jumped on him. After Shu Ligu devoured Qian Kun's soul, he took the golden jidan and bag of holding and returned to Wang Lin. Shu Ligu showed an expression of trying to please, but in his heart, he didn't want to give up the jidan. Wang Lin glanced at the jidan, then threw it into his mouth. The moment the jidan entered his mouth, the ancient god tactic started to activate, and he completely absorbed it in a few breaths of time. Wang Lin could feel that 80% of the jidan was absorbed by his body and only 20% became spiritual power. After absorbing the jidan, Wang Lin put away the bag of holding. He pointed at Qian Kun's body as a small fireball came out of his finger. The fireball quickly landed on Qian Kun's body and turned it to dust. When Yunfei saw all of this, her face became even more pale. and she unconsciously took a few steps back. In her opinion, this white-haired youth's cultivation level was too deep, especially the magical treasure he had used. She recognized that it was a Yuan Ying. It was reasonable that Yun Fei was mistaken. The devil Shu Ligao's soul was refined from a Yuan Ying. That, coupled with the fact that Shu Ligao met quite a few ancestors in the R&D realm that caused him to change a bit. And more importantly, Wang Lin had formed his soul core. Although a soul core didn't raise the cultivation level of a soul devourer at all, it allowed the soul devourer to create wandering spirits. This soul core also benefited the wandering spirits that the soul devourer controlled. Wang Lin killed Qiankun because he didn't want the news of him leaving the chaotic broken stars to be known. What terrified Yun Fei the most was that Wang Lin had swallowed the Jidan. Even the head of the Poison King's enchanted palace wouldn't just swallow a Jidan without refining it with other medications first. She had never seen something like this before. Right now, Wang Lin exerted even more pressure than Xiankun. Wang Lin's gaze landed on Yun Fei and her body instantly shivered. She didn't dare look at Wang Lin. He calmly said, "I helped you kill Qiankun, how will you repay me?" Shaking, Yun Fei raised her head and forced herself to calm down. She forced a smile, but she couldn't stop her voice from trembling. She said, "Si Senior Junior doesn't know Qiankun." Wang Lin didn't say a word and only calmly looked at her. Yun Fei immediately saw the coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. She suddenly became very nervous. The white-haired youth seemed to be a very ruthless person. He wouldn't show her any mercy because she was a woman. She knew that these people were impartial. If she didn't have anything of interest to them, then the only road left for her was death. Yun Fei had an icy personality herself. She already knew in her heart that Wang Lin didn't want the news of him coming out of the chaotic broken stars to spread. Since Qiankun was already dead, she was the only loose end remaining. She bit her lower lip. Her face showed a decisive expression as she took out a piece of jade and showed it to Wang Lin. "Senior, this jade contains some very precious pill recipes. This is my Q-Huang sect's greatest treasure." Wang Lin took the piece of jade and scanned it with his divine sense, then looked at Yun Fei. Yun Fei felt bitter in her heart. She realized that just this piece of jade wasn't enough to move Wang Lin's heart. Her mind quickly worked and said, "Senior Junior grew up in Qilin City and has a house there. Junior also knows Qilin City very well, so if Senior has any requests, Junior can help." After she finished speaking, she was afraid that Wang Lin didn't know the rules of Qilin City and continued, "Senior, did you know that if a cultivator doesn't have resident status in Qilin City, they can only stay there for 3 days? Then, every day after would cost 10 low-quality spirit stones. Even then, they can only stay for 10 days total, but Junior here has resident status in Qilin City. With Junior here, Senior can stay in Qilin City as long as Senior wants. Also, Junior is very familiar with this sea of devils, including the locations of cities and the strength of cultivators, as knowing these things was Junior's job at the Enchanted Palace. It can be said that there isn't much that this Junior doesn't know about the sea of devils. If it wasn't for me being chased in a state of panic by Qiankun, Junior wouldn't have come to the chaotic broken stars." After Yun Fei said all of this in one breath, she nervously looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin pondered for a while. He casually reached out with his hand and Yun Fei's body involuntarily moved toward him. Meanwhile, his right wrist turned and his fingers touched together. With a wave, an illusionary circle appeared and landed on Yun Fei's brow. This restriction will activate once every 3 days. Every time it actives, your entire body's blood will flow backwards. Your cultivation will go into chaos, and in your heart, a 5-star fire will be lit. If it isn't stopped by me within a minute, then your entire body will become a pool of blood." Yun Fei's face became pale, but she soon calmed herself down after taking a few deep breaths. Yun Fei knew that her life was safe for now. Wang Lin calmly said, "Take me to Qilin City." Yun Fei nodded and stood back on the flying sword. She carefully led the way in front of Wang Lin. Wang Lin didn't need a flying sword to fly, but looked like he was being carried by a gentle wind. This unique way of flying was in fact the use of the attraction technique that he had mastered all those years ago. Now, after so many years, even using the words complete mastery to describe the way he used this technique doesn't seem fitting. To be more accurate, the technique under his use was getting close to perfection. Like now, even if he used a flying sword, his speed wouldn't be much faster. Using a flying sword would consume more spiritual power, but because the attraction technique was the most basic technique, the amount of spiritual power it consumed was almost negligible for a late-stage Jidan expert. If one didn't look closely, they couldn't even detect any use of spiritual power at all. It could be said that the amount of spiritual power consumed in one breath's time was only 1/10th the amount spiritual power his Jidan produced in the same amount of time. After Yunfei saw this way of flying, her heart couldn't help but shake again. Her thought of escaping through luck in the future diminished a lot. In reality, the distance of 30,000 miles wasn't a very long distance, but after flying for a whole day, Wang Lin still hadn't found this Lin city, so his face immediately darkened. Yunfei secretly screamed in her heart. She forgot that when she stated the distance of Lin city from the chaotic broken stars, there was a dark blue aura ring that would randomly appear. The frequency of the aura wasn't very high, but when it appeared, it covered a wide area. Although there was no danger within the aura, your divine sense was trapped in your body, so it was very easy to get lost. Outside the aura, Yunfei explained all this very nervously. She was afraid of making Wang Lin angry. Finally, she suggested to go around it. This way, although it would take more time, wouldn't be more than 5 days. After hearing this, Wang Lin sent out his divine sense and scanned the area. Then his divine sense formed a straight line toward the aura. He soon saw the aura. After checking the aura, he confirmed what Yunfei just said and nodded in agreement with her suggestion. Yunfei let out a breath and quickly led the way. Wang Lin was not a talkative person, and Yunfei was too scared to speak. As a result, in 3 days, the two almost never spoke to each other. At noon of the 3rd day, the restriction on Yunfei's body activated. She confirmed what Wang Lin had said before, and felt the pain of her blood flowing backward, and her spiritual power going into complete chaos. She even felt that there seemed to be a fire that was going to melt her body. Good thing that the moment it was activated, Wang Lin stopped it. After experiencing this, the last bit of Yunfei's rebellious hopes completely faded away. Wang Lin completely knew what she was thinking in her heart. Although controlling people's hearts wasn't his speciality, when it came to controlling devils, he was right at home. The method he used on Yunfei was not that different from raising a devil. It was basically the same. Leo truly didn't realize today was May 20th. Leo's already married, not caring about this day at all. Truly no intention. Truly no intention. I'm already married. Yes, just like that. CHIRP, CHIRP, CHIRP. The capital of the ancient Tao, the floating city. Most of the city was still lively, and the music continued as if it was an auspicious day. The things that had happened around the ancient Tao temple didn't spread out far due to the size of the imperial city and the specialness of the ancient Tao temple. No one noticed that on the night before the wedding of the ancient Tao emperor, a great event that would shake not only the ancient Tao but even the entire ancient clan would occur. Countless people of the 3 clans were still singing and raising their cups. However, they heard a faint rumble that made them frown. Then they looked up at the sky. The people that looked up felt their hearts tremble and suddenly stood up. The music suddenly stopped as the rumble came from the distance. In the sky, a meteor-like ray of light seemed to be creating a thunderous roar that would make the world tremble. As it flew, the thunder caused the earth to tremble and ripples to appear in the sky. It was like a swordfish flying through the air with the intention to split the sky in half. An indescribable killing intent descended from the sky. Any members of the 3 clans who was invaded by this killing intent trembled, and their eyes overflowed with fear. They vaguely felt that something big was going to happen in the ancient Tao imperial city. Wang Lin saw the lively palace in the sky. Going from the ancient Tao temple to this place, he had only spent a few breaths of time. This speed was comparable to spatial bending. The palace had restrictions around it, making it impossible to go in there directly. Looking at the palace, Li Muan's figure appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. This figure made Wang Lin feel like his heart was being cut apart and bleeding. He let out a roar and charged at the palace like a real madman. However, when he was within 100 kilometers of the palace, several hundred shadows appeared and revealed themselves to be the armored guards of the palace. Shortly after, a cloud of smoke rose like an army of stampeding horses and nearly 10,000 ancient Tao members appeared. Thousands more came from different directions, forming a cage to block Wang Lin. It turns out to be Lord Wang Lin. One figure walked out from the sky, and when he saw Wang Lin, his eyes lit up and his expression became gloomy. "Didn't Lord leave? Why did you break in here? Do you know that this is a death?" Before he finished speaking, Wang Lin let out a roar. "Scram! Anyone who blocks me will die." Wang Lin stepped forward like a ferocious beast. He threw a punch, and the world rumbled. The dozens of people before him trembled and their bodies exploded. The slaughter feast had begun. This first batch of kills was just the prelude. It was also at this moment that 9 rays of light arrived behind Wang Lin. They were the 9 people under Xuan Luo. When they saw Wang Lin kill, their faces turned pale. "Quickly, tell the emperor. Wang Lin, he wants to kill the emperor." Although the old man with the highest cultivation level followed Xuan Luo, his fervor toward the imperial power made him disobey Xuan Luo's order. When these words echoed, the expressions of the 10,000 palace guards all changed greatly. They were shocked by Wang Lin's punch, but were awakened by these words. However, it was too late. Thunderous rumbles and miserable screams echoed. Wang Lin continued to walk forward, and anyone who blocked him died a miserable death. The 9 people under Xuan Luo gritted their teeth and rushed toward Wang Lin. They had used some unknown spell to appear before Wang Lin, and had suddenly chosen to attack. To the 9 of them, if given the choice between Xuan Luo and the imperial power, they would choose the imperial power without hesitation. "You all are courting death." Wang Lin originally didn't want to kill the 9 of them, but they had tried to block him several times. When they appeared before Wang Lin, a flash of killing intent appeared in his eyes. He waved his right hand and a huge palm print appeared. It was the War Spirit print. The moment the print appeared, 99 afterimages appeared. Then, in a flash, even more appeared, for a total of 121 afterimages. They all fused together, causing a 6th finger, 7th finger, 8th finger, 9th finger until a 10th finger appeared. A 10-fingered palm rushed toward them. The 9 people clenched their teeth and the ancient power in their bodies surged to resist. A thunderous rumble echoed before the palace. As the thunderous rumbles echoed, the 9 of them screamed and weren't able to resist at all. The moment they were touched by the palm, their bodies collapsed and all 9 died. As they died, the palm swept forward and guards who were blocking the palm died. This place was immediately filled with the smell of blood. If it was the Celestial Clan's imperial city, everyone who saw this would have scattered. They would never rush up to die if they knew the difference in strength was so great. However, this place was the ancient clan, where the imperial power was supreme. The rest of the guards rushed out as if they were crazy and burned their blood to stop this palm. The palace 100 kilometers away was still as lively as before. Countless people were coming up to drink and congratulate the ancient Tao Emperor. The ancient Tao Emperor was still smiling and he would sometimes laugh out loud. Songji was silently sitting beside him with her head lowered, thinking of something. However, the ancient Tao Emperor would look at Songji with a playful smile. He was very happy right now. In fact, it had been a long time since he was this happy. He was 90% certain that Wang Lin and the soul knew each other. And from Wang Lin's appearance, their relationship was not simple, as if they were Tao partners. Every time he thought of this, he would begin to laugh and would drink a cup of wine. He liked this feeling. Later on, when the time to play with his empress came, he would fantasize about Wang Lin's painful expression. "What right do you have to get the soul blood? I am the descendant of the ancient ancestor. What right do you have to become Xuan Luo's disciple when I bitterly begged, but was still rejected by Xuan Luo? What right do you have? You are merely an ant from a cave world, just a barbarian. How dare you compare to a genius like me? Now you come to my ancient Tao and you dare not to kneel before me. Wang Lin, you got guts. You don't consider me important at all. I don't care what cultivation level you are at. In the ancient clan, you must kneel when you see me. If you don't kneel, it's fine. After tomorrow's ceremony, I'll go play with my empress, see how your woman tastes." From his appearance, he was bitterly searching. But he didn't know that the woman he has been searching for is right beside me and is my empress. When the ancient Tao Emperor thought of this, he raised his cup and began to laugh once more. Seeing the ancient Tao Emperor laugh for no reason, the people on the platform raised their cups with smiles. But before they could drink these cups of wine, and the ancient Tao Emperor's laughter hadn't even finished yet, They all heard a thunderous rumble come from outside the palace. When the rumble rang out, it was muffled, but this caused the noise here to suddenly stop. Everyone instantly looked toward the source of the rumble. However, due to the restriction of divine senses in the palace, they could only see a blur. More importantly, there was a crazed aura blocking all divine senses in that place, so not even the ancient Tao Emperor could see anything. "No harm," the ancient Tao Emperor slowly said. He put the wine cup next to his mouth and took a sip. His action calmed the people on the square and the platforms down. They were not worried, as this was the ancient Tao Imperial Palace, the center of the ancient Tao. The protection here was powerful. They didn't believe anyone could break in here and survive. The square became lively once more, and the congratulations echoed once more. However, as the rumbles from outside became louder, everyone became silent once more. No one noticed that the ancient Tao Emperor's hand trembled a bit as he put down the wine cup. He frowned and stared into the distance. The ancient Tao Emperor slowly said, "Where are the guards?" As he spoke, the jinns all stood up and dropped to one knee before the ancient Tao Emperor. "Go out and kill the troublemaker. Bring me his head." "As you command," the jinns said at once. Their voices fused together into a sound wave and released a powerful surge of killing intent. They turned into 108 rays of light, and the 108 jinns rushed outside the palace. After the jinns flew out, the ancient Tao Emperor said, "Send the empress to rest." Two shadows appeared behind Songji and bowed toward her. Songji stood up, and the confusion in her eyes became even stronger. She looked toward the place where the rumbles were coming from. The words Wan Ear were still echoing in her mind. "Still not going back?" The ancient Tao Emperor frowned and looked at Songji with a cold and heartless gaze. Songji seemed to be very afraid. Her body trembled, and she lowered her head. She was going to follow the two shadows when a thunderous roar echoed. It was very close, as if it was right outside the square. As the roar echoed, the ancient Tao Emperor suddenly looked over and his expression changed greatly. He saw the 108 jinns' figures get knocked back, and they coughed out blood. Their bodies exploded in the sky and only one person didn't die. He fell to the ground and knelt down before the emperor. He let out a sharp roar that echoed across the square as he coughed out blood. "It's Wang Lin. He wants to kill the emperor." Leo continues to read, "Today is Monday, wishing for just a few more likes and followers for the VIDEO channel. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video." This sharp roar shocked the entire square and everyone on the platforms. Their expressions changed greatly. They still didn't believe that Wang Lin, who had been in a low mood and just left, would return in such a short period of time to kill the ancient Tao Emperor. But the deaths of the jinns and their exploded bodies was testament to the truth of the statement. Before people could react to the roar, an even more powerful roar echoed. A giant palm 1,000 feet large arrived. This palm print was very strange. It had 10 fingers. As it closed in, a green light appeared around the square and collided with the palm print. A thunderous rumble echoed, shaking the entire palace. The 10-fingered palm dissipated, but the green light curtain trembled violently before it collapsed into countless fragments as well. A wave of bloody wind came from outside the square and swept into the dead silent square. Everyone's gazes gathered on where the palm print had disappeared. They looked like they were going to face a great enemy. The ancient Tao Emperor's face was pale. He clenched his fists as he stared at where the palm print was, and his eyes filled with anger. Songji also looked at that direction. There was a flash of confusion in her eyes, and at the same time, her heart trembled, feeling as if a memory was going to awaken. The two shadows that had received the order to take her away seemed to have forgotten the ancient Tao Emperor's order. Their pupils shrank and their hearts sank as they looked at where the palm had disappeared. There was a dense blood mist moving at that location. It was a shocking sight. Sound of footsteps echoed from the mist toward the silent square. The sound came from the blood mist, and when it entered the ears of everyone here, it was as if it was stepping on their heartbeats. This made them feel suppressed, and fear arose from the bottom of their hearts. As the footsteps closed in, the people of the 3 clans on the platforms all subconsciously retreated. They felt like the thing that would come out of the blood mist would be a ferocious ancient beast that would devour the world and slaughter all life. In this silence, the ancient Tao Emperor suddenly said, "Kill this man!" His voice was calm without any tremor, as if the ancient Tao Emperor was still very calm. However, if you looked at his face, you would find that behind the anger in his eyes, there was fear. After the ancient Tao Emperor spoke, more than a dozen smoke-like shadows appeared from the palace. These shadows rushed out toward the blood mist and instantly closed in. The moment the dozens of shadows entered the blood mist, miserable screams echoed. These screams were extremely miserable, and they gradually disappeared one after another. Although the miserable screams had disappeared, the echoes lingered in the hearts of the people. This made the ancient Tao Emperor even more gloomy. "Why have you both not take the Empress away?" He turned his head and looked at the two shadows behind Xianxia. They trembled and quickly nodded. The two moved and turned into a vortex that surrounded Xianxia. The vortex rushed toward the palace. But just at this moment, a cold and crazed roar came from the blood mist. "You dare!" This voice contained a penetrating force and caused the two people inside the vortex to tremble. This voice filled hearts with endless fear, and they seemed to be unable to control their bodies. They felt like a grand calamity would descend upon them if they took one more step. The moment they stopped and turned back into two shadows, a fuzzy figure appeared in the blood mist. As his footsteps echoed, the figure walked out of the blood mist. The moment this figure walked out, the gazes of everyone here gathered on him. When they clearly saw the figure, gasps echoed. He had a head of white hair and a white robe, but now the white robe was covered in blood. His eyes were filled with madness and had turned blood red. It was Wang Lin. He had killed with every step and had killed a large amount of people on his way to the palace. This was the second time he had come here today. Before, he had come to hand over a congratulatory gift from his teacher, but now he was here to take someone away. "Wang Lin, what are you going to do?" The ancient Tao Emperor stared at Wang Lin across the square and the nearly 100,000 people from all three clans. Wang Lin walked out from the blood mist. He didn't look at the ancient Tao Emperor, but looked gently at Xianxia, whose eyes were filled with confusion. "I'm going to take her away." Wang Lin raised his right hand and pointed at Xianxia. He then looked at the ancient Tao Emperor coldly. The ancient Tao Emperor's heart trembled, and his face turned pale under Wang Lin's gaze. However, this immediately turned into endless anger. He was the ancient Tao Emperor. He was a supreme existence in the ancient Tao. He was a descendant of the ancient ancestor. He was the proud genius of the heavens. He was recognized by Grand Empyrean Gudao. No one could decide if he lived or died. His will was the will of the ancient Tao. Now, on the day before his big wedding, someone who he considered an aunt and was extremely jealous of wanted his empress. This made him laugh in anger. "Wang Lin, you are the disciple of Lord Xuan and the future guardian of the ancient Tao. I have always treated you well. You didn't want to kneel, so you didn't have to kneel. You didn't want to participate in the banquet, so I allowed you to leave. I have treated you so well. But now you have killed members of the ancient Tao and broke into the place. Now you want to take my empress before everyone. Wang Lin, you have gone too far. How are you protecting my ancient Tao? You clearly want to destroy my ancient Tao. Such a vile person, everyone must know." The ancient Tao Emperor waved his hand and roared, "Come, kill this Wang Lin and bring me his head." At the same time, he looked toward the ancient Tao temple with a gloomy expression. Wang Lin silently closed his eyes. In order to not make his teacher feel bad, he had forced himself to calm down when he arrived. He had given the ancient Tao Emperor a chance. If the Emperor had handed over Xianxia, then there might have been a chance of redemption between him, his teacher, and the ancient Tao. But now, Wang Lin opened his eyes, and the madness in his eyes lit up. A monstrous killing intent erupted. "If you don't agree, then you can die." Wang Lin let out a roar and stepped forward. As he raised his foot, all of the ancient Tao members rushed forward, even though they knew they were no match. Under the command of the ancient Tao Emperor, they rushed forward, and killing intent appeared in their hearts. In the ancient clan, the imperial power was supreme, and the words of the ancient Tao Emperor were everything. In their eyes, Wang Lin was betraying the ancient clan and had to be killed. Facing the madness of the people rushing at him, Wang Lin stepped forward and thunderous rumbles echoed. Anyone who blocked him, no matter their identity or cultivation level, collapsed into piles of flesh and blood before him. In just a moment, countless people died, but even more people rushed forward. Even some members of the other two clans decided to charge at Wang Lin. Wang Lin was hundreds of thousands of feet from the palace where the ancient Tao Emperor was. Wang Lin closed in on the palace like a storm, and thunderous rumbles continued to echo. "Anyone who blocks me will die." Wang Lin let out a roar and threw a punch. The dozens of ancient Tao members before him died. At the same time, on the square, a giant shadow appeared behind each ancient Tao member. There were thousands of ancient gods, demons, and devils. They all let out a roar and rushed toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin didn't stop, and at this moment, an ancient Tao shadow appeared behind him. This shadow seemed to support the world, and he waved his hand after the shadow appeared. As he waved, the giant figure behind him also waved its arm and began a crazed bombardment, with all the shadows rushing toward Wang Lin. The thunderous rumbles echoed across the palace, and countless cracks appeared on the earth. Even the sky seemed like it was going to be torn open. The thousands of ancient Tao shadows collapsed, and the thousands of ancient Tao members exploded. Wang Lin's body trembled, and the madness in his eyes became even stronger. He continued to walk forward, and in the blink of an eye, he was at the center of the square. He was even closer to the ancient Tao Emperor. "Sound the drum and activate the Flying City formation. Summon all clan members to the palace to destroy this person." The fear in the ancient Tao Emperor became even stronger. He retreated a few steps and let out a roar. With this roar, countless figures flew out from the depths of the palace and charged at the palace. Everyone inside the palace closed in. Shortly after, bang, 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 the sound of the drum echoed across the sky. The sky changed colors and the sound spread across the whole city. The sound of the drum echoed across the world, and the expression of every ancient Tao member changed greatly. This drumbeat was different from before. It contained a strange force, and meant that the ancient Tao Imperial Palace was facing a crisis. Every ancient Tao member who heard this sound would have to use their life to protect the ancient Tao. At the same time, lights of transfer arrays appeared in hundreds of places across the city. Every transfer array would allow people to arrive at the palace at the quickest speed. "Leo has a nasal inflammation and a cold again. My nose is just like a running faucet." Frustrated. "Scram, scram, scram." Wang Lin seemed to have gone mad and continued to punch as he walked forward. Very few people were a match for his punches and immediately died. Wang Lin could not see the figures rushing at him while surrounded by so many people. Even more people arrived as transfer arrays flashed. They were all startled for a moment before they rushed toward Wang Lin without any hesitation. At this moment, Wang Lin could only see one heir's figure in the palace before him. As more and more people arrived, they completely blocked Wang Lin's vision. As time passed, Wang Lin let out a roar and jumped into the air. It was impossible to teleport or use spatial bending here. When Wang Lin jumped into the air, half of his hair turned black. The moment this blackness appeared, Wang Lin's Grand Empyrean sun outline appeared behind him, causing another sun to appear in the sky. The moment this sun appeared, the expression of the ancient Tao Emperor changed greatly, and he was filled with disbelief. He lost himself and exclaimed, "Grand Empyrean!" Not only him, but there were now tens of thousands of ancient Tao members surrounding Wang Lin, and when they saw this strange black and white sun, their minds rumbled. Grand Empyrean! He is actually a Grand Empyrean. In the distance, Prince Jidu became excited when he saw this. He had waited for this day, and at this moment he retreated while sneering at the ancient Tao Emperor. The ancient Tao has attracted a great calamity, all because of this muddle-headed emperor. Prince Jidu was excited as the black and white Grand Empyrean sun expanded, releasing endless light. At the same time, Wang Lin let out a roar and raised his right hand as if he was raising his Grand Empyrean sun. He waved at the tens of thousands of ancient Tao members blocking him. With this wave, the Grand Empyrean sun flew at the earth like a meteor. The howl from the sun even replaced the sound of the drums. Thunderous rumbles echoed as a powerful shockwave spread out. Everyone who was touched by this shockwave died, and their bodies turned to ashes. This power erupted in the square before the palace. The earth collapsed and the world trembled. Countless platforms flying in the sky disintegrated. A majority of the tens of thousands of ancient Tao clan members dissipated as if a powerful wind had swept them away. After everything was destroyed, the Grand Empyrean sun flew toward the palace. At this moment, a shadow appeared. It was an old man who was also wearing a royal robe. He gave off pressure without revealing anger, and he raised his right palm to face the Grand Empyrean sun. The old man was standing 60,000 feet from the palace, and behind him were nearly 1,000 powerful members of the palace, including the 72 saints, 36 fiends, 18 kings, and 9 immortal generals. They hadn't participated in the battle before because they were guarding the palace. The moment the old man appeared, the 1,000 people revealed a feverish amount of excitement. Even the ancient Tao Emperor became respectful. The moment the old man's palm collided with the Grand Empyrean sun, his expression immediately changed. Popping sounds came from his body, and his hair was blown back. He coughed out a mouthful of blood as he was knocked back, and he let out a roar. With my blood, I activate the ancient clan's great restriction. The moment his words came out, a dark light came out from the blood he had coughed out. It scattered from a huge light curtain. This light curtain was like a wall that appeared before the old man. It was endless, and it blocked everything. The moment the light curtain appeared, it collided with Wang Lin's Grand Empyrean sun. It created a thunderous rumble that echoed across the entire imperial city and slowly dissipated. The square looked very strange now. Everything outside the light curtain was destroyed and in ruins, but everything behind the curtain remained the same. However, how could the Grand Empyrean sun be blocked so easily? The light curtain flashed a few times after blocking Wang Lin's Grand Empyrean sun and then shattered. As for the old man, his face was pale and his right arm turned to ashes. He coughed out blood once more and looked shriveled up. His body was hit with a powerful force and he was knocked back next to the ancient Tao Emperor. "Father!" The ancient Tao Emperor immediately shouted, helping the old man up. However, the old man gritted his teeth and ignored the right arm he had lost. Instead, he raised his left hand and slapped the ancient Tao Emperor. With a bang, a 5-fingered mark appeared on the right side of the ancient Tao Emperor's face. "Scram! You provoked such a powerful enemy for my ancient Tao just for a woman. Why don't you go die? I will definitely go to Mount Gudao to see Grand Empyrean Gudao to establish a new emperor." The old man was clearly furious, and his voice was like thunder. There was a flash of coldness in the ancient Tao Emperor's eyes, and he touched his face. He spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at the old man gloomily. "Father, you deal with the matter before us first. As for other matter, you don't need to worry. Thanks to Grand Empyrean Gudao, I can die." The ancient Tao Emperor's words were cold. "You!" The old man was angry, but he turned and stared at Wang Lin, who was walking closer. His eyes were filled with fear. Aside from the nearly 1,000 people before the Great Hall and the people of the other 2 clans who had scattered, the square was empty. It was filled with blood that was about to form a river. Wang Lin walked on the ground and stepped through the blood. There were only about 1,000 people between him and the palace, but there were many powerful people among them. Wang Lin's gaze moved past the 1,000 people at the temple, the old man, the ancient Tao Emperor, and also Songji, who was looking at him. Songji's eyes were filled with confusion and contained a hint of struggle. In the distance, rays of light flew out from the palace and came in from all directions. There were no less than tens of thousands of people, and as the transfer arrays lit up, even more ancient Tao members arrived. This was the ancient Tao's capital and imperial city. There were countless people here, and now that it was the wedding of the emperor, the number of people here was even greater. No matter how powerful Wang Lin was, even if he was comparable to a Grand Empyrean, he would still be exhausted at some point if he was surrounded. What's more, this was the palace. There were many formations here, and it was likely that there were even relics left by the ancient ancestor. It was like a mortal walking into a tiger's den. But Wang Lin didn't care about any of this. His only thought was to take away Wan Er. The father of the ancient Tao Emperor walked next to Songji and roared at Wang Lin, "Stop! If you take another step, this old man will kill this woman." Songji's face turned pale, but she revealed no fear. Her eyes were still filled with confusion as she looked at Wang Lin. Her memories seemed like they were about to awaken, but a seal made her unable to remember. Wang Lin stopped, and his gaze still never looked at the old man. He looked at the woman with a gentle gaze, but his words made the old man's heart tremble. "If she dies, I'll leave, but I'll spend the rest of life to make sure the ancient Tao ceases to exist and make the 3 ancient clans into 2 ancient clans. I am capable," Wang Lin slowly said. As he had said, with his strength, he could do it. The killing intent within those words made the old man lick his lips. His left hand trembled a bit, and he believed Wang Lin could do this. His eyes were filled with killing intent, but he gave up on killing the woman. After all, only with this woman here would they have a chance to kill Wang Lin. Before he came, he had already crushed the jade to inform Grand Empyrean Gu Dao. This meant that the royal family was in danger, and required Grand Empyrean Gu Dao's protection. After Wang Lin finished speaking, he no longer spoke and walked forward toward the 1,000 people before him as tens of thousands more rush over. Kill! As Wang Lin walked toward the 1,000 people, the 72 saints of the ancient Tao let out a unified roar. They led hundreds of clans members toward Wang Lin. As they closed in, the 72 saints raised their right hands and smashed down on Wang Lin. Behind them, 72 huge shadows appeared and bombarded Wang Lin. Madness appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. He didn't T-attack, but opened his mouth and roared at the 72 saints. With this roar, the ancient Tao shadow behind him also opened its mouth and let out a roar. This roar contained all of Wang Lin's cultivation and his ancient cultivation, along with the power of his soul blood. This sound wave collided with the 72 saints. Although the 72 saints were not weak and had attacked together, they all collapsed before Wang Lin's roar. The moment they died, Wang Lin moved like a storm and slaughtered his way into the crowd before him. Rushing forward like crazy, he grabbed someone's head with his right hand and crushed it. Then he waved his left hand and killed another. After killing another, he opened his mouth and a ray of red light flew out. It was the blood sword, and it killed dozens of people. Wang Lin charged forward, and now he was less than 30,000 feet from the palace. There were 36 rays of bloodlight flying toward Wang Lin. They were the 36 fiends. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes, and his right hand formed a seal. Green smoke appeared around his 5 fingers. The smoke swirled around his fingers, and when they spread out, a monstrous fire appeared. It was the extreme fire of the 8 extreme Tao. However, just before Wang Lin used this spell, a sigh came from the heavens and earth. This sigh was filled with sadness, disappointment, and a feeling of desolation and regret. Wang Lin. Wang Lin's body trembled. These past few days, without wishing for likes on the VIDEO, the like button for the VIDEO has quickly fallen to 10th. Urgently wishing for you readers to flip through and see if there's a like button for the VIDEO left unpressed. As Wang Lin walked through the palace while surrounded by thousands, a sigh from his teacher, Xuan Luo, echoed. Just a few breaths before this, in a mountain far away from the ancient Tao imperial city, something else was happening. The inside of the mountain was completely hollow, but from the outside, not even Grand Empyreans would notice it. Inside was a great formation, one so extremely complex that it would make one's vision blurry from just looking at it. The formation released white light and flashed non-stop. It gave off a strange feeling, and at the center sat a blurry figure covered in 7 colored light. The figure was forming seals and placing them on the formation. Just as the 7 colored seals landed, an illusion appeared inside the formation. This illusion was a miniature version of the ancient Tao imperial palace. There were black and white dots scattered across the miniature palace. There were tens of thousands of black dots, but compared to the white dots, they were still inferior. The white dots occupied almost the entire palace and were still increasing in number. There were 1,000 white dots, and they surrounded the only red dot. This red dot was soaked in a bloody aura and remained motionless. Black represents dead souls and white stands for vitality. This red dot is Wang Lin. Wang Lin, we meet again. The blurry 7-colored figure smiled and a hoarse voice echoed. This old man pulled her soul fragment back then and gave it to the ancient Tao emperor. He indeed did as I planned and found someone to fuse with the soul to title as his empress. And you came to the ancient Tao palace, as I expected. Kill. The more you kill, the greater the benefit for this old man. The blurry 7-colored light smiled, but when he said soul fragment, his voice became faint, but soon recovered. He raised his right hand and white light shined. As his left hand rose, black light shrouded his hand. This caused the colors surrounding him to become 9 colors. At the same time, a ray of gray gas appeared out of nowhere and fused with the 9 colors, making it 10 colors. The gray body formed in the cave world is now complete. The blurry figure murmured, his voice hoarse. The gray gas was that ray of ghostly light from when Wang Lin left the cave world. Not even Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo had detected it. Unfortunately, I suffer limitations and can only absorb the death aura from Wang Lin's slaughter. Otherwise, if this old man acted personally, I could gather the amount of death aura I need in a short period of time so I can the figure pause twice while speaking. It was as if he was limited by something, and was even afraid of the goal he was trying to achieve with the death aura, so he didn't want to say it clearly. This Wang Lin's slaughter in the cave world satisfied me, but once he came to the immortal astral continent, he killed very little. If not for that, this old man could have finished gathering, and would not have needed to use the ancient Tao backup. Fortunately, I was prepared and removed her soul fragment early on. The blurry figure paused again on her, and his voice trembled before becoming silent. After a long time there was a flash of coldness in the blurry figure's eyes. Since I have chosen to do this, I no longer have a need to be afraid. At most my consciousness will be erased, but once I succeed, the blurry figure trembled in excitement. This old man has prepared for so many years, I can fail. Let us first extract the dead soul from the palace. The blurry figure raised his right hand and pointed at the miniature of the palace inside the formation before him. With this, the black dots all trembled and became faint, as if they were about to be absorbed by the formation. At this instant, a force seemed to shroud those black dots and bounce back. They were no longer faint and seemed to reject being absorbed by the formation. The expression of figure surrounded by the 10 colors changed, and he exclaimed, "They!" At this moment in the ancient Tao imperial city, when the sigh came from the sky, Wang Lin suddenly stopped. He seemed to forget about the danger, the 36 fiends charging at him, and the ancient Tao emperor tens of thousands of feet away. The red in Wang Lin's eyes gradually dissipated, and the madness and ferociousness on his face slowly disappeared, replaced by bitterness as the figure walked over. He knew that his teacher would definitely come and would definitely stop him. That's why he hadn't explained at all, and had tried to kill the ancient Tao emperor and take Li Muwan away as fast as possible. Wang Lin had long seen the ancient Tao emperor's thoughts and behavior from the jade he had been given at the Great Soul Sect. He had even heard what the ancient Tao emperor had muttered beside the bed. On top of all these things, the ancient Tao emperor had made Song Ji drink with Wang Lin. How could the ancient Tao emperor not have realized it after seeing Wang Lin's expression? He was just immersed in the pleasure of controlling a pair of lovers. Therefore, once Wang Lin understood everything, he issued a howl saying he was going to kill Yi Mo, kill this ancient Tao emperor. He had considered hiding his anger and calmly entering the palace again to take Song Ji away. However, his bottom line was touched. If he could endure it, it wouldn't be his bottom line. Although attacking an unprepared emperor seemed to be the right action, it would be an even worse situation than now. It would have been an assassination. With his strength, charging into the palace in a fit of rage can be considered him losing his mind due to anger. But if he were to assassinate, then that meant that he was very calm. If he did such a thing while thinking calmly, then the damage to Xuan Luo's reputation would be impossible to repair. Wang Lin understood all of this, so he wouldn't choose to do that. Wang Lin wouldn't choose such methods. He was going to take away Wan Er's soul, kill the ancient Tao emperor, and do it all in broad daylight. The only thing he had to consider was his teacher's feelings. Teacher Wang Lin clasped his hands and bowed at the person walking toward him. He didn't get up and continued to bow, even though the 36 fiends had used this chance to close in on him. In the sky, Xuan Luo walked out and looked at Wang Lin. He seemed to have aged a lot, and he waved at the ground below. With this wave, the 36 fiends all coughed out blood and retreated in fear. Everyone beside Wang Lin was knocked away 10,000 feet, leaving only Wang Lin, who continued to bow. The ancient Tao emperor sneered when he saw Xuan Luo appear. His eyes lit up and he quickly stepped forward. "Lord Xuan," Wang Lin broke into the palace and tried to steal my empress. "He has betrayed us as Lord Xuan's disciple, I hope, Lord Xuan." Before he finished speaking, Xuan Luo suddenly turned toward him. "Scram for me!" The ancient Tao emperor trembled and coughed out blood as he retreated several steps. He looked at the blood he had coughed out in disbelief. He didn't expect Xuan Luo to dare to injure him. He was about to speak again, but when he saw the killing intent and anger in Xuan Luo's eyes, he swallowed his words. His expression was gloomy, but he didn't dare to speak again. Grand Empyrean Xuan Luo, the father of the ancient Tao emperor, the old man who had lost his right arm, sighed and bowed at Xuan Luo. This child doesn't respect the imperial power, but I believe the respected guardian of the ancient Tao will deal with his matter fairly. After all, this person killed tens of thousands of powerful people of my ancient Tao. He has endangered the ancient Tao, and this is unforgivable. The old man was much smarter than the current emperor. His words put the focus on the fact that Wang Lin had killed many people. Xuan Luo silently pondered. Then he looked at Wang Lin. His eyes were filled with regret and sorrow. There was also confusion, and his face seemed even older. He looked at his disciple, who was still kneeling there. His lips trembled, but he was unable to speak. After a very long time, Xuan Luo took a deep breath and said, "Why?" Wang Lin let out a sigh. He looked up at Xuan Luo with a complicated expression. He couldn't repay Xuan Luo for the kindness he shown. He didn't want to disappoint Xuan Luo from the bottom of his heart. Teacher, don't be angry. Wang Lin raised his right hand and hit his chest. He coughed out a large full of blood and waved his hand. The blood scattered and fused with the blood on the ground, revealing a monstrous bloodlight. With Wang Lin's blood as a guide, bodies began to form out of thin air. These bodies were all the people killed by Wang Lin. Back then, with Yimo's cultivation, he could use a few mouthfuls of blood create the ancient gods, ancient demons, and ancient devils of the cave world. Now Wang Lin had the soul blood. With the inheritance he had obtained after fusing with the soul blood, he could do this as well, and he was countless times more powerful than Yimo. These bodies appeared one by one, tens of thousands of people, and not one person was missing. Their bodies formed, and all the blood on the ground disappeared. Wang Lin's face was pale as he opened his arms. The tens of thousands of souls flew out and fused with their respective bodies. Wang Lin had killed tens of thousands of people, but he had only destroyed their bodies and taken their souls away. However, he was too powerful, so no one here had seen through him. Xuan Luo was his teacher. How could he do something that would make Xuan Luo sad? Lately, Leo has been having half headaches, always seeming to see light waves in the form of lines, affecting my vision, sometimes momentarily half-blinded, perhaps too exhausted. When the tens of thousands of people appeared, the eyes of the nearly 1,000 people outside the palace widened in disbelief. Even the ancient Tao Emperor's expression changed and became even more gloomy. His father, the old man, gasped. He hadn't noticed anything before, and now he looked at Wang Lin with even deeper fear in his eyes. As those souls returned to their bodies, the tens of thousands of people opened their eyes. After a moment of confusion, they awakened completely. Bursts of cries echoed. They felt like they should have died, but now it was all like a dream as they were revived. However, they were not as strong as before death and had weakened a lot. Although this spell was mysterious, it was unable to make so many people recover their original power. However, due to the soul blood in Wang Lin's body, although their power had been weakened, they would only need a few decades to recover completely. Only someone with the soul blood could use such a spell that was close to the power of the ancient ancestor. After the cries, they all became silent and looked at Wang Lin with complicated expressions. Among them were the 9 people under Xuan Luo. They let out sighs and felt like they had just escaped a great calamity. Their souls had been taken by Wang Lin, so they understood that the reason they were revived was because of Wang Lin. Wang Lin's face was extremely pale. Although he had the soul blood, using a spell like this would still harm him greatly. In order to not disappoint Xuan Luo, he had made this decision when he decided to break into the palace. Whether he succeeded or failed, he was going to take the souls of everyone he had killed and then revive them once Xuan Luo arrived. Facing this unimaginable scene, Xuan Luo was moved. With his cultivation level, he could see that Wang Lin could do all of this due to the drop of soul blood. With 3 drops of soul blood, one can create a new clan. This had been passed down throughout the generations. Now that Xuan Luo saw this, he believed it. Wang Lin raised his head. His pale face made him look sickly. He looked at Xuan Luo and softly said, "Teacher-disciple didn't really kill a single ancient Tao member. Even though he didn't kill anyone, he has weakened many powerful members of the ancient Tao and broke into the palace, disrespecting the imperial power. If word of this spreads out to the ancient Shi and ancient Ji, the ancient Tao will lose all face. He still needs to die," the ancient Tao emperor suddenly said. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Wang Lin. "Wang Lin, tell teacher the reason." Xuan Luo looked at Wang Lin and his expression gradually softened. He thought Wang Lin didn't care about his feelings and had gone on a wanton killing spree that would result in irreparable damage and regret. Not only would this have made his heart ache, it would have also made him feel disappointment. For his only disciple, he had done everything he needed to do as a teacher. He had even taken Wang Lin as his own son. He had prepared everything Wang Lin needed for cultivation and was even willing to go against Grand Empyrean Gu Dao for Wang Lin. Just moments ago, he was refining a treasure for Wang Lin. But when he arrived, he saw the ground covered in blood. The ancient Tao he protected had countless deaths, and all of it had been done by his disciple. This made Xuan Luo feel like his heart was stabbed with a knife and filled him with disappointment. But now, when he saw Wang Lin use the soul blood to revive the people that had died, despite hurting himself, Xuan Luo's heart ached for Wang Lin. His heart ached for this disciple, and he knew that this disciple still cared about him. Because he knew that if Wang Lin hadn't planned this in advance, there would have been no way to revive people out of nowhere. Before he came, he had already accounted for my feelings. Xuan Luo's gaze softened. He understood his disciple. If not for an important reason, his disciple would not have done this, much less go crazy like this. The reason was most likely Wang Lin's bottom line. Xuan Luo let out a sigh, and he vaguely guessed part of it. Wang Lin's face was pale, as he said, "My wife's soul is inside Song Ji's body. Disciple is going to take her away. The ancient Tao Emperor knows this and won't allow it. Disciple also needs to kill him." The expression of the ancient Tao Emperor changed, and he immediately roared, "Absurd. You want to steal my empress? How can I let you take her away? You said your wife's soul is inside her body. Simple ridiculous. You didn't explain at all when you arrived. Why should I give my empress to you?" The ancient Tao Emperor sneered, but his heart trembled. "So now that I've explained, I am going to take her away." Wang Lin turned his head and coldly looked at the ancient Tao Emperor, who was being guarded by nearly 1,000 people. The ancient Tao Emperor immediately said, "Ridiculous. Your explanation is without reason. If I really let you take her away, the entire world laugh at my incompetence. Besides, your reason is without logic. I can say that this woman was my wife in my last life. What can you do?" His voice was sharp and showed no signs of backing down. He was convinced that Wang Lin could never hurt him, nor would dare to kill him. He also saw the respect Wang Lin had toward Xuan Luo. With Xuan Luo here, Wang Lin would be even less likely to attack. If he didn't take advantage of this, he wouldn't be royalty. Besides, he was the ancient Tao Emperor. Anyone who dared to kill him would have to ask Grand Empyrean Gu Dao first. As the ancient Tao Emperor, he had nothing to fear. How could he let Wang Lin do as he wished? He had thought about it. Once today's matter was over, he was going to spoil Song Ji and take her virgin body, let her bear his child, and let Wang Lin fall into despair. The ancient Tao Emperor waved his sleeve and coldly said, "If you want to take away my empress, then give me some evidence." Wang Lin silently pondered. The killing intent in his body was almost unable to be suppressed and was about to erupt. He was going to kill the 1,000 people blocking his path and slaughter his way to the palace to kill the ancient Tao Emperor. But he could not do this. There was a hint of red on his pale face as he suppressed the crazed killing intent in his body. He looked at Song Ji and revealed sadness. He had power comparable to that of a Grand Empyrean, and besides Xuan Luo, no one here was his match. However, right now, before a tiny emperor, he could not take a step forward. He could see Wan Er's soul right there but could not take her away. All of this was because he didn't want to disappoint Xuan Luo and put him in a dilemma. He didn't want to make the teacher he owed so much to feel sorrow. Wang Lin closed his eyes and revealed a miserable smile. When he opened his eyes once more, his right hand reached at the void and a jade appeared. After his divine sense gathered on the jade, he crushed it. The moment he crushed the jade, everything he had seen using the jade from the Great Soul Sect, along with the ancient Tao Emperor's matter, was displayed before everyone without anything hidden. The image was incredibly clear. The imperial teacher said that this soul fragment can make me the true ancient emperor of the entire ancient clan. Then, making this woman my empress will be the best reward for her. Although this woman is not an absolute beauty, she has her own charm. I don't know where the imperial teacher got this soul fragment from. She may have her own lover, and perhaps he felt extreme pain after her death. Unfortunately, he will never know that this woman is in my hands. If I could see who this woman's lover was and I could see him for myself, it would be very interesting. If one day they meet, I wonder if they will recognize each other. This matter is not urgent. After the ceremony, I'll have to get a good taste of the soul fragment after it is fused. The ancient Tao Emperor's voice came out of the images from the shattered jade. Although this was the second time Wang Lin had heard this, the killing intent in his heart surged once more. However, he suppressed it once more. This voice was heard by everyone here. Although the ancient Tao Emperor remained calm, a huge wave was set off in his heart. He never expected such a strange spell to exist in this world. The ancient Tao Emperor sneered and said in a gloomy tone, "Such a realistic illusion, interesting. Wang Lin, you spent some effort to create this, but it's all false." "I have never said such a thing. What soul fragment?" Wang Lin remained silent, but his killing intent surged like crazy. It was about to erupt for the third time, and his eyes became red once more. However, he suppressed it once more, and due to suppressing his anger multiple times, blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. As the ancient Tao Emperor sneered, Xuan Luo frowned. He raised his right hand and reached toward Song Ji. However, there was a flash of purple light around Song Ji that dissipated Xuan Luo's grab. This caused Xuan Luo's expression to change. When the old man saw this, he exclaimed, "Purple print ancestral soul lock!" The ancient Tao Emperor smiled slightly and coldly looked at Xuan Luo. Then he looked at Wang Lin, and his laughter became even more unbridled. "She is my empress. No one can take her away. I have already planted this lock on her body. This is a relic from the ancient ancestor. If I die, she dies. And with one thought, she can move more than 100 feet from me. Without breaking the lock, who can take her away from me? I control whether she lives or dies. Wang Lin, do you dare to kill me? If I die, she will also die." "Wang Lin, why are not kneeling?" The ancient Tao Emperor laughed as he looked at Wang Lin. "These past few days I've always been prodding myself to wish for likes on the video, but I always forget. Now there are only the last 12 hours left to double the likes for the video. Tears in the hope of likes. Brothers, don't hold back." The purple print ancestral soul lock. This spell was passed down by Grand Empyrean Gu Dao to the 3 imperial families, and only the current emperor can use it. They can only use it once in their life, and anyone below Grand Empyrean will no longer have control over their own life. Only Grand Empyrean Gu Dao can remove this spell, Xuan Luo said with an extremely gloomy expression. Wang Lin was silent. Xuan Luo looked at the ancient Tao Emperor and calmly said, "Yi Dao, as the guardian of the ancient Tao, I request that you immediately remove the restriction here and let Wang Lin take this woman away. I'll go ask Grand Empyrean Gu Dao to remove the spell from this woman." "Imperial son, it's not worth it for a woman." The old man also frowned and looked at the ancient Tao Emperor. "Since this woman has the soul of Wang Lin's wife, why do you want her around? Just give it back to him. Such a powerful person has decided to stay in my ancient Tao. If you do this, it will make his heart cold." "Heart cold? So what if his heart becomes cold? You re-old Dante say pointless things." "And Lord Xuan, this is a private affair of the imperial family. You are the guardian of the ancient Tao. Did you forget the agreement with Grand Empyrean Gu Dao? This person has broken into the palace and disrespected the imperial power. I now hope that Lord Xuan will kill this person and fulfill your duty." The ancient Tao Emperor said coldly, completely ignoring Xuan Luo's request. He was behaving like this because he believed no one would dare to kill much, especially Wang Lin. Xuan Luo smiled angrily, and there was a flash of coldness in his eyes. This ancient Tao Emperor was someone he had appointed, and now he dared to say such words. Just as he was about to speak, Wang Lin spoke. "If I kneel, will you let me take her away? Didn't you want to kill me before? Were you not arrogant before? Weren't you unwilling to kneel before? Now what you want to kneel? You are a mere ant from a cave world, and I am the proud son of the heavens. Come and kneel before me, beg, and if I am happy, I might even gift this woman to you." The ancient Tao Emperor smiled, but his smile was very dark. "I, Wang Lin, can continue to guard the ancient Tao until the end of my life. I can kneel. I cannot kill you. I just want the soul fragment in the woman's body. Give her back to me." "Okay," Wang Lin murmured. His eyes were filled with endless sadness. This was the accumulation of thousands of years of sadness. Give her to you? Then it would depend on my mood. Perhaps after playing with this woman for a few thousand years, and you re-obedient during that time, then I might give her to you. The ancient Tao Emperor laughed. Wang Lin's body trembled and closed his eyes. The killing intent in his body erupted once more, and he almost lost control. As for the so-called restriction he could feel from the soul blood in his body, if he had time he could break the restriction. The reason he was still suppressing this killing intent was for Xuan Luo. Because Xuan Luo wouldn't allow the ancient Tao Emperor to be killed. Xuan Luo was the guardian of the ancient Tao. And the imperial power was supreme here. I can offer other things to trade for the soul fragment of my wife Wang Lin. Opened his eyes and suppressed the killing intent once more. However, his eyes were bloodshot, and he had spoken in a hoarse voice. Oh? Tell me, what are you going to trade? The ancient Tao Emperor smiled. Wang Lin looked at Song Ji. Then his right hand reached at the void and a soul appeared. This soul's eyes were closed, but it gave off a golden light. The light was impure and the soul looked like it was in pain. Is the Celestial Clan's Celestial Emperor's soul enough? Wang Lin's gaze looked at the ancient Tao Emperor. The ancient Tao Emperor's expression changed as he stared at the soul. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Celestial Emperor, this is impossible. You actually have his soul. The ancient Tao Emperor gasped. Not only him, but when Wang Lin took out the soul, the expressions of all the ancient Tao members changed. The members of the two other clans in the distance were also the same. Many of them had seen the Celestial Emperor, so they immediately knew that this soul was real when they saw it. The eyes of the father of the ancient Tao Emperor widened and his body trembled. Even Xuan Luo was shocked when he saw this soul. Not enough? How can a mere Celestial Emperor's soul be enough? The ancient Tao Emperor's heart beat rapidly, and he looked at Wang Lin with deep fear in his eyes for the first time. He couldn't imagine how Wang Lin had managed to get the Celestial Emperor's soul. It has to be said that the Celestial Emperor was one of the 9 Grand Empyreans. Wang Lin silently pondered. He waved his left hand at the sky, and the black and white Grand Empyrean sun appeared behind him. Something slowly appeared from within the sun. It was a head. It was a giant head that had no eyes or ears. The moment the head appeared, an extremely dense celestial energy and golden light that looked like the sun spread out. If I add this head, is it enough? Wang Lin's eyes became even more bloodshot and his voice was even more hoarse. This is the ancient Tao Emperor was startled as he looked at the head. He felt that the head looked familiar, but he could not remember. This is the head of the celestial ancestor. This really is the head of the celestial ancestor. The ancient Tao Emperor's father's body trembled violently, and he flew out of the palace. He stared at the head in the air, and revealed excitement he had never shown before. What? Celestial ancestor's head. After the ancient Tao Emperor recovered, his expression changed greatly. Xuan Luo gasped as he looked at the head, and his mind went completely blank. If they were like this, there was no need to talk about the rest of the people here. Once they heard the cry of the ancient Tao Emperor's father, they all looked at the head. The shock they felt was even more intense than when they saw the soul of the Celestial Emperor. Celestial ancestor's head. The celestial ancestor is dead. Then what about the ancient ancestor? Is the ancient ancestor still alive? This Wang Lin has the head of the celestial ancestor. This matter set off a wave in the entire palace, and would soon set off a wave across the entire ancient clan. The members of the other 2 clans stared at the head in disbelief. Wang Lin looked at the startled ancient Tao Emperor and said with a hoarse voice, I'll trade these 2 things for the soul of my wife. Is that enough? Enough! Enough! The person who answered Wang Lin was the ancient Tao Emperor's father. He excitedly turned around to look at his son. Yi Dao. With these 2 items, my ancient Tao will rise. With the Celestial Emperor's soul and the Celestial Ancestor's head, my ancient Tao will have a chance to unify the entire ancient clan. Let the woman go. The old man's voice was trembling from excitement. The ancient Tao Emperor hesitated. Quickly, release the restriction. What are you waiting for? The old man anxiously roared. Not enough. With a great enemy like him, I can rest easy. If we kill this person, both items will belong to my ancient Tao. A flash of killing intent appeared in the ancient Tao Emperor's eyes. The old man was about to roar, but he suddenly stopped speaking. He turned to look at Wang Lin and his eyes lit up. You all have gone too far. In the sky, Xuan Luo let out a roar that shook everyone present. Some even coughed out blood due to this roar, and their faces were now filled with fear. Even the ancient Dao Emperor's face turned pale, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. He looked up at Xuan Luo with a ferocious expression. Xuan Luo, you dare to hurt me? Are you not afraid of the anger of Grand Empyrean Gu Dao? Yi Dao, scatter the restriction. You can take the celestial ancestor's head and the celestial emperor's soul. This old man will act like nothing has happened. But if you don't, then this old man will fight against Grand Empyrean Gu Dao to kill you today. Xuan Luo's heart ached. He looked at Wang Lin's almost pleading expression and pale face. His heart could not bear it. He understood that Wang Lin was only doing all of this for him. His disciple didn't want to make it difficult for him, and didn't want to disappoint him, so Wang Lin continued to endure it all. With this kind of disciple, Xuan Luo could be proud. If his disciple could do this, then although he had lived for countless years, he could also personally kill this emperor for his disciple. He would become the first Grand Empyrean to kill an ancient emperor. Xuan Luo knew how serious the consequences were, but now, watching his disciple endure it all, he had decided to go all out. You would dare to kill me? Xuan Luo, you are the Grand Empyrean of the ancient Dao. If you were to kill me, not only would you be killed by Grand Empyrean Gu Dao, but you would be going against the ancient Dao that you have protected for countless years. You would offend the entire ancient Dao. Do you dare to kill me? You would be the sinner of the ancient Dao. Even if you died, you would be hated by the entire ancient Dao. The ancient Dao Emperor roared, his expression ferocious. Xuan Luo's body trembled. He closed his eyes to hide the sadness and confusion in them. I have guarded the ancient Dao until today, and have done nothing I regret. I only have this one disciple. I brought him here from the cave world. He had a supreme position in the celestial clan, but he still came to find me. I only have one disciple. Xuan Luo opened his eyes and revealed a desperate determination. When Xuan Luo made the decision, Wang Lin softly said, Teacher. He looked at Xuan Luo and revealed a smile. This was the first time he had smiled since he had found Wan Er's soul fragment. However, when Xuan Luo saw this smile, his heart felt even more pain. What kind of smile was this? It was clearly a silent cry. Teacher, you have protected the ancient Dao your entire life. Disciple is not worthy of your decision. Wang Lin looked at Xuan Luo and knelt down. He kowtowed once at Xuan Luo. Throughout his life, he had said that he would not bow before the heavens or the earth. He would only respect his parents and kneel to Situ. Now there was one more person he would kneel to. Xuan Luo's eyes were filled with sadness. 5,000 words in a major chapter. Seizing the moment when brothers and sisters feel comfortable. Lio wishes for the like button for the video, for sharing, for channel follows without hesitation. Wang Lin softly said, Teacher, if we did everything again, disciple would still choose to follow teacher to the immortal astral continent without any hesitation. The sorrow in Xuan Luo's eyes became even stronger. He understood Wang Lin. Teacher's kindness is as heavy as a mountain, and disciple would never forget it. Wang Lin sighed and stood up. He patted his clothes. As he swept away the dust, it was as if he had swept away his feelings and his previous tolerance. In order to not disappoint his teacher, he could kneel, give out treasures, endure not killing the ancient Dao Emperor. He could do anything. He just wanted to take Wan Er's soul and not make his teacher suffer too much sorrow. He wanted to find a balance because he didn't want the people who had been kind to him to feel pain. He didn't want to hurt his teacher. However, this thought was only a luxury, an unrealistic dream. He had endured again and again, but now he could not endure anymore. Since this was the case, there was no longer any need to endure. Before the gazes of everyone present, Wang Lin laughed loudly at the sky until tears flowed down. The tears were bitter and contained his thousands of years of determination and unyielding nature. They contained Wang Lin's dedication to his own conscience and those who had shown him kindness. His laughter became louder and louder as if he had gone crazy. When this laugh entered Xuan Luo's ears, it was as if a giant pair of hands had grabbed his head and pulled it out. At this moment, he felt as if something was missing from his body. This caused him to become pale as he looked at Wang Lin, and his eyes looked even older. I, Wang Lin, since I began cultivating in my childhood, have gone through countless slaughter, and experienced the coldness of the world. Most people I met were devious and sinister. Am I destined to be a lone star? My wife died, my son is trapped in reincarnation, C2's whereabouts are unknown, Xianxia is also lost. Everyone who has shown me kindness suffered in the end. I care a lot about the kindness others have shown me, because that is rare and should be cherished. I care a lot about love because love allows me to persist. Tears flowed down from Wang Lin's eyes as he laughed and talked to himself. Wang Lin's laughter also entered the ancient Tao Emperor's ears. This laughter was extremely harsh for him to hear, and his heart trembled. Without hesitation, he pointed at Wang Lin and roared, "Kill him!" In the ancient clan, where the imperial power reigns supreme, and at the palace of the ancient Tao, the emperor's command should be carried out immediately. But right now, aside from the 1,000 people near the palace, the other tens of thousands of people around, including the people Wang Lin had revived, all remained silent. They had witnessed everything that happened, saw the cause and effect, saw Xuan Luo's sorrow, and they saw Wang Lin's plea. After seeing all this, they could not lift their feet to take that step. This was the choice between the imperial power and their conscience, and a majority of the people hesitated. However, there were still thousands of people who had been indoctrinated by the imperial power and let out a roar as they charged at Wang Lin. "Teacher!" Wang Lin suddenly turned around and completely ignored everyone charging at him. He looked at Xuan Luo with a decisive gaze. "Please let disciple call you teacher one last time. Disciple can repay the kindness you have shown me. The only way for me to repay you is to die once, and then I, Wang Lin, will no longer have any connection with the ancient Tao. From now on, everything that I, Wang Lin, do will not have any relation with teacher. Everything I do, I'll take responsibility for." Wang Lin suddenly raised his right hand as the thousands of people closed in and Xuan Luo was about to wave his sleeve. Wang Lin looked at Xuan Luo, and his right hand mercilessly smashed down on his own head. This blow contained his love for Xuan Luo. This blow contained the eruption of Wang Lin's uncontainable rage. Time seemed to slow down. Wang Lin's right hand smashed into his head and his skull cracked. The destructive aura destroyed his head, his body, his everything. During this destruction, Wang Lin seemed to see the moment Xuan Luo first appeared in the cave world. He seemed to return to his hometown and saw the past. Everything instantly stopped at the moment Wang Lin charged out of the ancient Tao temple in rage. Everyone looked in disbelief as Wang Lin's body exploded into flesh and blood. He had self-destructed right before Xuan Luo arrived. Xuan Luo looked at the figure that had turned into a mess of flesh and blood and shed tears of blood. Dead? The ancient Tao emperor was startled, and there was a flash of gloominess in his face. The other ancient Tao members that were going to charge up also stopped and looked over with suspicion. Just at this instant, a strange scene unfolded. The explosion of flesh and blood from when Wang Lin's body exploded quickly gathered. In the blink of an eye, a new Wang Lin was formed. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and his face was extremely pale. Today he had used his extremely precious 3-life spell once. He had already died once. After resurrecting, he was no longer Xuan Luo's disciple, and he no longer had any connection with the ancient Tao. He no longer had to consider anyone's position, and no longer had to suppress himself again and again. He was doing to do what he wanted and take away Wan Er, who belonged to him. "Yi Dao!" Wang Lin let out a heaven-shattering roar at the sky. This roar was the eruption of all the anger he had suppressed. This was a roar from the depths of his soul. At this moment, monstrous killing intent erupted from Wang Lin's body without any reservation. This killing intent caused the world to change as if he had just walked out from the underworld. He rushed forward with ferocity, madness, and killing intent. The expression of the ancient Tao emperor changed, and he retreated a few steps before he roared, "Kill him!" The nearly 1,000 people before the palace, and the thousands of people that had charged out all charged at Wang Lin. Even if it was merely using their bodies as shields, they had to defend the imperial power. It was unknown if this was their glory or sorrow. "Anyone who blocks me again will really die this time." Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot as he stepped forward and threw a punch. The dozens of people before him all let out miserable screams as they exploded, but the ancient Tao members behind them all rushed ahead. Wang Lin stepped on the blood beneath him as he walked forward. He wasn't fast, but every step covered hundreds of feet. Rivers of blood flowed as he slaughtered his way forward. Howls echoed as the 36 fiends turned into 36 rays of light and charged at Wang Lin like 36 dragons. However, Wang Lin didn't even look at them as they closed in. He raised his right hand and green smoke appeared at the tip of his finger and spread out. It was the extreme fire Dao. The smoke instantly touched the 36 dragons. Then thunderous rumbles and miserable screams echoed. The 36 dragons turned into balls of fire and were burned alive. Wang Lin's left hand reached to the side. One of the 18 kings had stepped out to sneak attack him, but the first thing he saw was Wang Lin's palm. His expression changed greatly and he wanted to retreat, but the hand grabbed his face. Wang Lin squeezed and the king's vision went black, feeling intense pain, then his head exploded. Xuan Luo stood there and watched Wang Lin slaughter his way to the palace, but he didn't stop him. He was already disappointed at the ancient Dao's imperial power. He looked at Wang Lin's mad back and recalled his disciple's self-destruction. As he watched, tears flowed down from Xuan Luo's eyes. He knew that the reason Wang Lin had self-destructed once was because he was going to slaughter without reservation. He knew that Wang Lin didn't want to affect him, and had to cut their teacher-student relationship. The way to cut off that relationship was to die once. Using this method, his disciple was telling the entire ancient Dao, the entire ancient clan, and even Grand Empyrean Gu Dao that he would take responsibility for everything here today. Wang Lin didn't want Xuan Luo to become a sinner of the ancient Dao, to become the first Grand Empyrean to kill an ancient emperor. Even now, his disciple was still thinking about him. Such a disciple made Xuan Luo feel a deep sense of guilt. What have I done for him, in fact? Not much. Xuan Luo looked at the slaughter and at the deaths of his ancient Dao clan members. For the first time, he didn't feel sadness for his clan. Wang Lin let out a roar and the slaughter aura around him spread out. It turned into a ray of red light that shot out and opened a bloody path before him. At the same time, he pointed at the sky. The entire palace turned into a dark sea, and at the end of the sea a sun began to rise. Wang Lin was using his faith spell Sundered Night at the palace without hesitation. The sun rose and endless light shined. A mutter echoed as miserable screams echoed and bodies exploded into blood mist. It was unknown how many people had died. After the illusion of the sea dissipated, most of the 1,000 cultivators before the palace had died. The rest were swept away, and Wang Lin stood before the palace. He walked into the palace with craze-killing intent coming from his body, and he covered the sky behind him as he entered the palace. Waking up early today, not updating on time even earlier. Leo went to deal with household chores, unsure what time I'll be back this afternoon. The new chapter tonight might be late. Outside the temple, the blood path leading to the palace was covered in the remains of nearly 1,000 people. The people looked at the palace with fear. When Wang Lin stepped into the palace, the ancient Dao Emperor's face turned pale. He subconsciously retreated a few steps and stared at Wang Lin. Wang Lin, if I die, this woman will die. Do you dare to kill me? I have the protection of Grand Empyrean Gu Dao. No one in this world can kill the ancient emperors. Wang Lin ignored the ancient Dao emperor and also ignored the equally gloomy father of the emperor. He only looked at Songji, looking at this woman that gave him a familiar feeling that made his madness soften. He walked toward the aura he had been chasing for thousands of years. But just at this moment, shadows appeared before Wang Lin. They were like smoke and they charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin seemed to turn a blind eye to them. In his eyes, only Songji existed. As he walked forward, popping sounds echoed and the figures inside those shadows were forced out of hiding. The figures coughed out blood and cracks spread across their bodies before they disintegrated. In the blink of an eye, dozens of those figures appeared before Wang Lin, but none of them could survive. Wang Lin stood before the confused Songji. The woman looked up at Wang Lin and opened her mouth to say something, but she forgot her words. She looked at Wang Lin's unfamiliar face with a hint of familiarity. Her eyes began to struggle as her memories tried to awaken. Who is he? Who is she? Who am I? If I am her, then who is Aunt Chang and Sister Dong? The woman looked like she was in pain as she held her head and trembled. Wang Lin's heart ached as his right hand raised and pointed behind him. A miserable scream suddenly echoed. A shadow wanted to take advantage of this moment to attack, but before the shadow even revealed itself, Wang Lin's finger pierced the Shadow's skull, and he died. Wang Lin looked at the woman before him and softly said, "Don't be afraid. I don't know who Aunt Chang and Sister Dong are, but I know you are Li Muwan. You are my wife that I have searched thousands of years for." When the woman heard Li Muwan, she felt a painful whisper, and it felt as if a mirror had shattered in her mind. This name had a strange power, and she felt a sense of familiarity in her soul, as if this was her real name. Li Muwan Song Gi. Who am I exactly? Due to the intense pain from her head, tears started flowing down her cheeks. The ancient Dao Emperor revealed a vicious gaze, and just as he was about to move, he heard Wang Lin's cold snort. This cold snort was like a bolt of thunder that caused the ancient Dao Emperor to let out a miserable cry. Blood flowed out from his orifices, and he retreated a few steps. Wang Lin quickly raised his right hand and pointed to between the woman's eyebrows. Then a trace of the drop of soul blood inside Wang Lin went into the woman through Wang Lin's finger. The moment the trace of soul blood entered her, she began to tremble. A fine line that didn't seem to belong to this world appeared on her forehead. It was connected to the ancient Dao Emperor behind her. Without hesitation, Wang Lin raised his left hand and slashed at the fine line. With this slash, the line was cut in half. The moment this line was cut, the ancient Dao Emperor coughed out a mouthful of blood. He looked miserable and his eyes were filled with horror and disbelief. Impossible. This purple print ancestral soul lock can be cut like this. This is the secret spell of the imperial families. Only Grand Empyrean Gudao can lift it. The ancient Dao Emperor squealed but didn't dare to get close to Wang Lin and continued to retreat. Wang Lin paid no attention to the ancient Dao Emperor. He only looked at the woman in pain. He gently stroked her hair. "Don't be afraid. I'll take you to kill." Wang Lin softly said what he had said thousands of years ago. When the woman heard this, her trembling suddenly stopped, and the struggle in her eyes became several times more violent than before. It was even more intense than when she heard Li Muwan. It was as if this line was more important than her own name. It was as if this was the beginning of her thousands of years of love. A thunderous rumble echoed in her mind. This line continued to echo in her mind and swirl in her vague memory. She once had a dream and heard that line. That voice had continued to exist in her mind, and she had tried to find that voice, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't remember it or find it. Until she heard Wang Lin muter wan at the banquet, which made her heart tremble and feel a strong sense of familiarity, but she still couldn't remember. Even when Li Muwan was said, she only trembled but couldn't remember. However, after hearing "I'll take you to kill," these words suddenly overlapped with the words from her dream. She faintly remembered that the voice from the dream came from the person before her. She remembered the Sea of Devils, where she stood before the cave with a pale face, but firmly guarded the cave. She remembered that there was a person sitting behind her refining the power of the pills, about to form his core. She also remembered that when she was exhausted and could no longer stop the devil cultivators from breaking into the cave, as their laughter echoed, she fell into a warm chest. Then she heard a cold voice, but it also made her feel a strange sense of warmth for the first time. "Don't be afraid. I'll take you to kill." Her body trembled, and tears flowed down from her eyes. A majority of the confusion in her eyes disappeared. She looked at Wang Lin, at the face that became more and more familiar. Wang Lin, the woman's voice was hoarse, as if she hadn't spoken in a long time. However, what she said caused Wang Lin's mind to rumble as if millions of bolts of thunder had exploded. Wang Lin became excited and laughed at the sky as he hugged the woman. He turned to look at the ancient Dao Emperor and his father, who were panicking. However, unlike his father, the ancient Dao Emperor still had a hint of calmness. When Wang Lin looked over, the ancient Dao Emperor clearly saw Wang Lin's killing intent, and his heart dropped. "I am the ancient Dao Emperor. I have the protection of Grand Empyrean Gudao. You can kill me." The ancient Dao Emperor retreated again. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He wanted to kill this person, and his hatred was bone deep. He hugged Li Muwan as he charged at the ancient Dao Emperor. Wang Lin instantly closed in, and his eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. He raised his right hand and smashed down on the ancient Dao Emperor. "Grand Empyrean Gudao, save me!" the ancient Dao Emperor screamed. But just as Wang Lin's palm fell, a thunderous rumble echoed. A flash of purple light appeared around the ancient Tao Emperor and knocked Wang Lin's palm away. When the ancient Tao Emperor saw the purple light, he immediately began to laugh. The panic in his eyes disappeared and turned into calmness. He stared at Wang Lin ferociously. I am the ancient Tao Emperor. I am the descendant of the ancient ancestor. How can you kill me? In this world, no one can kill me. The ancient Tao Emperor waved his sleeve and roared at the people outside the palace. All ancient Tao members, kill this person. Anyone who defies this order will be considered a traitor. As his words echoed, the tens of thousands of ancient Tao members around the square, and even the thousands of ancient Tao members that had arrived, all heard it. They looked toward the palace and rushed over like a large black cloud. There was a flash of killing intent in Wang Lin's eyes, and he raised his hand again to smash down at the ancient Tao Emperor. The purple light flashed again and resisted Wang Lin's attack. As a result, the ancient Tao Emperor laughed even more arrogantly. He didn't even dodge and fiercely looked at Wang Lin. What right do you have to kill me? Wang Lin, you are only an ant of the cave world. Now that 100,000 of my ancient Tao clan members are coming, I want to see how you will leave. You are going to die, and once you die, I'll play with this woman and let her accompany you in death. The ancient Tao Emperor laughed. I can kill you. Wang Lin's hair moved without any wind, and his grand Empyrean sun appeared behind him. It gave off black and white light at the same time, and the soul blood inside him moved rapidly. At this moment, the wind song appeared from Wang Lin's body. Thunderous rumbles echoed. It was the thunder song. The clouds also churned with the wind and thunder, creating the wind flute. The rain also fell, creating the rain song. Then the sky and earth songs also appeared, and then, from Wang Lin's body, the seventh song appeared. The eighth song was the song of the internal organs, and it could not be described by words as it echoed through the ancient Tao Palace. In this world, there is another person beside Grand Empyrean Gu Dao who can kill you, that's the ancient ancestor, Wang Lin slowly said. And as his words came out, his soul blood released the ninth song. The last song was the bloodline song, and when this song appeared, Wang Lin's eyes became silver. This silver revealed a sense of a supreme being. Behind Wang Lin, above the palace, a giant shadow appeared. This shadow had his hand behind his back and was looking at the sky in contempt. Its appearance was exactly the same as the ancient ancestor statue in the city. Ancient ancestor. Everyone in the square, in the palace, and all the ancient clan members in the city were shaken when they saw this shadow. They were filled with excitement and fear as buzzing echoed. We descendants greet the ancient ancestor. It was unknown who knelt first, but in a flash, the more than 100,000 people in the square and palace knelt down. Finally, the weekend is here, and Leo can finally sleep to his heart's content, not needing to get up early to take the daughter to school. Been burning the midnight oil these past few days, utterly exhausted. The 9 songs appeared at once. This was something that only took place in legends and rumors, but at this moment, the 9 songs echoed in the ancient Tao Palace. The hundreds of thousands of ancient clan members were filled with excitement and knelt down at the ancient ancestor shadow. The ancient Tao Emperor's father, who had lost an arm, was shocked and also knelt down without any hesitation. His body trembled, but there was no excitement in his heart. Instead, there was endless horror and fear. The ancient ancestor's shadow was summoned by this person. He is able to play the 9 songs. This not even in my royal family has anyone been able to do this. Could his bloodline be even more pure than my royal family's? Xuan Luo stood there and looked at the ancient ancestor shadow with respect in his eyes. He didn't kneel but clasped his hands and bowed at the shadow. The ancient Tao Emperor was dumbfounded, and his eyes revealed disbelief. He seemed to have gone crazy and retreated until he was outside the palace. He looked up and saw the figure looking at the sky with its hands behind its back. When he saw the figure, the ancient Tao Emperor trembled and his heart shook violently. Impossible, he shrieked. Then he continued to retreat until he was on the square. I am the son of the heavens. I am the ancient Tao Emperor. I am the descendant of the ancient ancestor. The ancient Tao Emperor's face was pale, and his mind was filled with madness. He could not accept this reality, and he could not endure this kind of blow. He pointed at the shadow and let out a hysterical howl. Everyone at the square aside from Xuan Luo was on their knees. Even the members of the other 2 clans were kneeling as well. Only the ancient Tao Emperor was standing there, pointing at the ancient ancestor's shadow like a madman, and he howled. Impossible! This is impossible, it's fake! This is an illusion he created, this can't be real. I am your real descendant, I have the bloodline that is supposed to make you appear. I am the ancient Tao Emperor. All of you. Stand up. Are you all blind? This is fake. Get up! The ancient Tao Emperor continued to roar like crazy at the people around him. Their kneeling and worship seemed to bring him great fear and pressure, as if they were forcing him to accept that it was all real. But no matter how he roared, no one paid attention to him. They were all shocked by the ancient ancestor's shadow, and none of them dared to get up. For the ancient clan, where the imperial power reigned supreme, the reason they felt such reverence for the imperial power was because of the creator of the imperial power. The ancient ancestor had created the 3 clans and was someone the ancient clan was completely devoted to from the bottom of their hearts. In their minds, the ancient ancestor was a supreme existence. Kings, immortal generals, get up for this emperor. Can you all not see that this is fake? This is fake. This is fake. This is fake. The ancient Tao Emperor trembled as he rushed like crazy to one of the kings and kicked him. The entire square was dead silent, and only the ancient Tao Emperor was making noise, but no one looked at him. Fake it, Saul, fake. The ancient Tao Emperor's eyes were completely occupied by fear. His body trembled as he looked at the shadow in the sky, and he was still in hysteria. At this moment, Wang Lin, who was hugging Xianxia, walked out of the palace. He stood at the door of the palace and looked outside. He saw everyone kneeling, then he flew into the sky with Xianxia in hand. The moment he appeared, the giant ancient ancestor's shadow seemed to overlap with him and gave off an indescribable pressure. This pressure caused the earth to tremble and the sky to change colors. All of the people kneeling below began to tremble. Wang Lin lowered his head. His silver eyes revealed ruthlessness and indifference as he looked at the ancient Tao Emperor, who was still roaring. At the same time, the ancient ancestor's shadow also lowered its head and looked at the ancient Tao Emperor with the same silver eyes. The ancient Tao Emperor's roaring suddenly stopped when the shadow looked at him. He retreated while his teeth chattered, then he suddenly began to roar again. I am your descendant. I didn't betray the ancient clan. You can kill me! Wang Lin remained silent and raised his right hand. When he raised his right hand, the ancient ancestor's shadow also raised his giant right hand. As Wang Lin pointed at the ancient Tao Emperor, the giant hand in the sky also pointed at the ancient Tao Emperor. Ye will borrow the ancient ancestor's hand to grant you death. This was the first time Wang Lin had spoken since the ancient ancestor had appeared. After he spoke, a flash of silver light flew from the ancient ancestor's right hand and headed directly toward the ancient Tao Emperor. The ancient Tao Emperor's face turned ashen and he let out a cry for his life. No! Grand Empyrean Gudao, save me! Father, save me! Ancestors, save me! Imperial teacher, save me! The ancient Tao Emperor roared in fear. As he cried for his ancestor, deep underground below the palace, there was a purple coffin in a secret chamber covered in runes. There was an old woman lying inside the coffin. She looked like a skeleton but also wore a royal robe. Her eyes suddenly opened, revealing fear and hesitation, but she didn't come out. On the surface, as the silver light closed in, purple light appeared around the ancient Tao Emperor. However, the moment the silver light touched the purple light immediately collapsed, and the silver light pierced between the eyebrows of the ancient Tao Emperor. The ancient Tao Emperor's head exploded into a bloody mess, and his body began to shatter. His entire body collapsed into countless pieces, and those pieces continued to collapse until nothing remained. Even his soul was turned to nothing by this silver light and was completely erased. An ancient emperor had been killed inside his palace, and before the eyes of his people. The old man kneeling inside the palace trembled when the ancient Tao Emperor called for him. He struggled, but he didn't dare to try to save the ancient Tao Emperor. He also had no method of saving the ancient Tao Emperor from the shadow of the ancient ancestor. After doing this, Wang Lin's face turned slightly pale, and the ancient ancestor's shadow gradually dissipated. Before it completely disappeared, Wang Lin suddenly looked at the horizon, toward a deserted mountain outside the imperial city. The person responsible for taking Wang Er's soul was not the ancient Tao Emperor, but the figure covered in 7-colored light that Wang Lin had seen using the jade from the Great Soul Sect. The mysterious ancient Taoist imperial teacher. It was the imperial teacher who had taken Li Muwan's soul fragment and given it to the ancient Tao Emperor. It was also him who had told the Emperor to find someone who could fuse with the soul. The imperial teacher was behind all of this. The ancient Tao Emperor had merely been tricked to become part of this imperial teacher's plan. Wang Lin had already noticed this when he saw the things inside the jade, but he had suppressed it because at that time he was already filled with rage. Now that the ancient Tao Emperor was dead, Wang Lin was going to see the mastermind behind it all. Whether it was as he had speculated, if it was that person. Wang Lin could not find the mysterious ancient Tao imperial teacher with his divine sense. However, when he summoned the ancient ancestor's shadow and killed the ancient Tao Emperor, the death aura from the ancient Tao Emperor was absorbed by the earth and then headed toward the deserted mountain in the distance. When the ancient ancestor's shadow was active, he also felt that there was a giant formation inside that hollow mountain. He could vaguely see a figure at the center of the formation. He didn't need to guess, and was certain that this person was the cause of all of this, the mysterious ancient Tao imperial teacher. Seeing that the ancient ancestor shadow was about to disappear, there was a flash of silver light in Wang Lin's eyes, and he raised his right hand to point at the deserted mountain. As he pointed, the extremely powerful ancient ancestor spell he had seen inside the Jade Prince Jidu had given him appeared in his mind. The ancient ancestor shadow also raised its right hand and pointed forward before disappearing. However, the spell was completed. Outside the imperial city that was floating in the sky, the space around the deserted mountain seemed to be separated from the world, and then was suddenly squeezed. Thunderous rumbles echoed as a 10-colored light appeared around the mountain and began resisting Wang Lin's attack. Even the palace could vaguely hear the noise. As the mountain rumbled, a huge crack appeared on it, and then it was split in half, revealing the giant formation inside. But the power of the ancient ancestor's finger was dissipated by the 10-colored light, and they both dissipated. Wang Lin's pupils shrank. He waved his sleeve and flew into the sky with Xianxia. As for the celestial emperor's soul and celestial ancestor's head, he had long put them away. However, just as he was about to leave, a roar came from below the palace. The sin of killing the emperor is unforgivable. You must leave behind the celestial emperor's soul and the celestial ancestor's head. Day in, day out, nearing 3,000 words, reading a lot, but can't stop. Can't force myself to split the story into 2,000 words chapters, because then the flavor is gone. Leo with tears in his eyes, longing for the like button for the video. This voice was hoarse and was filled with strong hatred. As the voice came from under the square, the ground began to rumble and cracks appeared. The cracks widened and caused the square to split open. As the cracks increased, the center of the square collapsed. The ancient Tao members on the square rapidly retreated and some even flew into the air. A ray of purple light came out of the hole in the square and shot into the sky. From a distance, it looked like a giant pillar that could support the heavens and earth. The moment the purple light appeared, the entire palace was shrouded in purple. This purple light was composed of countless formations, as if the grand formation had been activated. A purple coffin slowly flew out from the collapsed ground. The coffin was filled with death aura, but also gave off an extremely powerful ancient aura that attracted everyone's gazes. The coffin stood erect, and the lid of the coffin shattered, revealing the skeleton-like body inside. This was an old person. One could vaguely see that it was an old woman. It looked like she had climbed out from the underworld. She had a few scattered strands of hair remaining, wore a faded royal robe, and her body was completely black. There were 3 daggers stabbed into her body. One was between her eyebrows, one on her chest, and one on her dantian. "Greetings, Holy Emperor Ancestor!" The moment she appeared, all the ancient Tao members knelt down again. Their voices connected together into a wave that echoed in the world. The ancient Tao members were actually showing the same amount of respect as they did to the ancient ancestor. Seeing the excitement in their eyes, it showed that this old woman had an extraordinary identity. Among the previous generations of ancient Tao emperors, only one person could be called the Holy Emperor. When Xuan Luo saw the old woman, he recalled the past. He let out a sigh, and his expression was complicated. Yu Wei. Wang Lin was still standing in the sky. and his expression was calm. He was not surprised that the old woman had appeared. In fact, when the ancient ancestor's shadow appeared, he sensed this half-alive and half-dead aura. Even if he hadn't noticed this aura, Wang Lin would not be surprised, because, at the banquet, there were 4 tables closest to the palace. Those 4 tables had obviously been prepared for the Grand Imperial Teacher, and the Emperor's father, the previous emperor. However, that was only 3 people, and there were 4 tables prepared. That meant that this person had a very high status, and even though this person would not come, a table had to be prepared. As for who this person was, Wang Lin didn't know, but after seeing this old woman and hearing Xuan Luo say Yi Wei, he remembered. When he first came to the ancient Tao, he had learned about the history of past generations of ancient Tao emperors. In the ancient Tao's tens of thousands of years of history, there was a woman. This was the only woman who had become the ancient Tao emperor. Her succession caused an uproar across the entire ancient Tao. After enduring the scrutiny from the ancient Tao members, Grand Empyrean Gu Dao sent out a decree recognizing her. This calmed everything down. This woman was also part of the imperial family. At that time, the ancient Tao had almost reached its peak and become the strongest of the 3 clans under her leadership. However, after she stepped down, the ancient Tao ended up as the weakest among the 3 clans tens of thousands of years later. Due to this woman's contribution to the ancient Tao and leading the ancient Tao to surpassing the ancient Shi and ancient Ji, she was referred to as the Holy Emperor by future emperors. She was also referred to as the Holy Emperor Ancestor by the ancient Tao people. Her name was Yi Wei. When Wang Lin heard this name, he recalled everything he knew about her. And Wang Lin had also learned from the records that it was during her era that his teacher, Xuan Luo, had become a Grand Empyrean. All of this instantly flashed through Wang Lin's mind. He looked at the skeleton-like old woman who had walked out from the coffin, and there was a flash of coldness in his eyes. When Songji saw the old woman, she seemed terrified. Wang Lin exerted a bit more force and held her even tighter. The old woman looked at Wang Lin and said in a hoarse voice, "Leave behind the celestial ancestor's head and celestial emperor's soul, and I will declare you not guilty. Otherwise, even if you can borrow the power of the ancestor and summon his shadow, do you really think the ancient Tao Palace is a place you can come and go as you wish?" The death aura coming from her body seemed to become even stronger. The old woman looked at Wang Lin and said in a gloomy voice, "My cultivation is not as powerful as yours, but this is the ancient Tao Palace, which contains the 10,000 grand formation. This formation was set by the ancient ancestor, and each generation of emperor can only activate 20% to 30% of its power. However, my body has fused with the formation, so as long as I am in the palace, I can die. I can activate up to 70% of the formation's power." Wang Lin's expression was calm, but the coldness in his eyes became even stronger. "If you want my things, you can try taking them," Wang Lin slowly said. Then his Grand Empyrean son suddenly appeared. The black and white color shined and Wang Lin's hair moved without any wind. An ancient Tao shadow that looked exactly like him appeared under his Grand Empyrean son. The ancient Tao shadow seemed to carry the Grand Empyrean son, and it coldly looked at the old woman. Wang Lin could only burn the soul blood inside his body to summon the ancient ancestor's shadow once. He had just used it, so his soul blood was scattered throughout his body. It would take some time to gather it to burn once more. The old woman's dim eyes lit up and she raised her bone-like arm. Just as she was about to squeeze, a sigh came from Xuan Luo. This sigh entered the old woman's ears, and her hands trembled. "Yi Wei, he is my disciple." Xuan Luo looked at the old woman with a complicated expression, but there was a hint of tenderness in his eyes. It was as if the old woman before him was not ugly at all, and was still the beautiful and brilliant woman of the past. The old woman silently pondered for a moment, and then looked at Xuan Luo. Her dim eyes contained a complicated expression as she said in a hoarse voice, "He was once your disciple. I know you liked Yi Dao. When he was a child, he inadvertently went to your closed-door cultivation location, and you thought there was fate between you and that child. I clearly didn't consider that child good. His personality was too arrogant, and he could not tolerate others. I originally didn't want to pick him as emperor, but he had your aura, so I chose him. Today, he forced my only disciple to cut his relationship with me, and now he can no longer stay in the ancient Tao. Do you think Yi Dao did the right thing? As the emperor, Should he have done this? Do you really think this formation can trap Wang Lin? At the end, Xuan Luo began to roar. His eyes were filled with sadness, and when he looked at Wang Lin, the pain became even more heart-wrenching. He could never forget that smile that was really a cry. Then the kowtow after the smile, followed by the palm Wang Lin had used to take his own life to cut their relationship. He understood that his position as Wang Lin's teacher disappeared when Wang Lin's body collapsed. The old woman silently pondered. A moment later, she said in a hoarse voice, "The child Yidao indeed deserved death, but as the emperor, he can die for nothing. Today, if Wang Lin doesn't leave behind the celestial ancestor's head and the celestial emperor's soul, then I'll start a war. Besides, I don't believe this formation can trap him." The moment she finished speaking, Wang Lin began to laugh, and the coldness in his eyes became even stranger. He raised his right hand and the celestial ancestor's 8 extreme Tao began to spread. The green smoke was the extreme fire Tao. The blue ripples were the extreme water Tao. The golden light was the extreme metal Tao. Wang Lin had learned 6 of the celestial ancestor's 8 extreme Tao at the Empyrean trials. As he waved his sleeve, the 6 extreme Taos appeared one by one. Aside from water, fire, and metal, there were also wood and earth. After the 5 elements were complete, the 6th was the extreme life and death Tao. As for the 7th extreme wealth Tao and the final extreme sky Tao, although Wang Lin hadn't obtained them, he could sense them. Given enough time, it would not be impossible for him to master them too. The moment the celestial ancestor's spell appeared, Wang Lin raised his right index finger. Silver light appeared, and the ancient ancestor's finger spell took shape. Wang Lin's action caused the old woman's pupils to shrink. She thought that by attacking with the power of the formation, even Grand Empyreans would only have a 30% chance of survival. This Wang Lin could likely die to the formation. However, the old woman hesitated now. She stared at the 6 extreme Taos around Wang Lin and clearly felt the destructive power within them. There was also the ancient ancestor's finger. She hadn't come out earlier, but she had felt the power of the ancient ancestor's finger. She had thought that it was created by the jade, but now she found out that Wang Lin himself could use it. As she hesitated, Wang Lin sneered and his hair gradually changed from half black and half white to completely black. A shocking amount of killing intent spread out from his body. The old woman's expression changed once more. "Yi Wei, I promised to protect you your entire life, guard the ancient Tao for a lifetime. I'm tired, let him go. You are not his match, and this formation cannot stop him. I am saving you." Xuan Luo's face became a lot older, but when he looked at the old woman, there was still a tenderness that hadn't changed for countless years. The old woman silently pondered for a long time before she waved her hand and the purple light around the palace dissipated. Wang Lin looked at Xuan Luo and let out a sigh. When the formation dissipated, he hugged Song Ji, who had fused with Li Muan's soul and flew into the sky. As he flew up, he suddenly saw a burly man among the ancient Tao members below looking up at him with a smile. His gaze met with the burly man's, and Wang Lin suddenly stopped. You. International Children's Day brings tears and wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter QI, Lin City. Wang Lin kept Yunfei because she had some use. If she didn't then to prevent the news of him leaving the chaotic broken stars. He would already sent her to the underworld, and would kept playing the game of cat and mouse with Jian Kun. Wang Lin knew that if he were to let the disciples of Duanmu, 6th desired devil lord, Hunchback Meng and ancient emperor know that he came out of the land of the ancient god, the future would hold nothing but trouble for him. Among those people, there will certainly be someone who knows the truth about what's inside the chaotic broken stars. Once Wang Lin has been exposed, he will be hunted endlessly by the disciples of those sects. If all those disciples were below the Yuan Ying stage, then they wouldn't pose much of a threat. However, once Yuan Ying disciples show up, it would definitely be troublesome. In conclusion, complete silence was a much better choice. It would save a lot of trouble and he would be a lot safer. It wasn't that Wang Lin wanted to kill, but he was forced to kill for his own survival. He still regretted one thing in his heart, although this thing happened many years ago. Back in the day, in the country of Zhao, when he had just left the Heng Yue sect, he met his former friend Zhang Hu. He had killed Zhang Hu's teacher to save Zhang Hu. Many mortals witnessed that scene. Zhang Hu's decision was to kill all those mortals, but Wang Lin didn't have the heart, and instead used a spell that made people lose some of their memories. Even after many years, every time he thought about it, he felt pain in his heart, as if it were being drilled by millions of insects. He more than once mocked his own ignorance back then, and he more than once hated his own flawed sense of morality back then. He didn't know that old Jimo had casted a spell on Zhang Hu's teacher that allowed him to see everything that happened after Zhang Hu's teacher's death. Wang Lin thought that the issue came from the mortals because he allowed them to live. In exchange, he got old man Jimo's anger, which caused Jimo's great-great-grandson Teng Huayuan to come after him. Otherwise, how would Wang Lin have brought such disaster by offending a Yuan Ying cultivator when he was only at the QI condensing stage? That incident caused his whole family to be wiped out. The only thing left of his parents were 2 soul fires, and he had even died once. All of this catastrophe was caused by one moment of weakness. From the moment of his death, Wang Lin had a change of heart. If he could go back in time, he wouldn't stop Zhang Hu from killing those witnesses. No one is born ruthless, no one is born to be cautious and wily, and no one is born cruel and cold-hearted. All of this is caused by one's life experiences. If people were given the choice, few would choose to be perceived as a ruthless, bold, decisive, cold-hearted person who is strong-willed and as cunning as a fox. Since the time Wang Lin left the county of Zhao, including the time he had spent in the outer world battlefield and in the land of the ancient god, more than 400 years had passed by. More than 400 years was enough for someone's soul to completely change. The him now was a completely different person from the little boy from the Hengyu sect in the county of Zhao. Wang Lin sometimes thought that if fourth uncle hadn't give his son's spot to him all those years ago, then he would probably be a pile of dirt at this point. However, his road wouldn't have been as difficult as it was now. He would have gone and taken the state exam to enter the court, and his parents wouldn't have met their ends. They would have gained respect once their son entered the court, and the wealth that follows. They would have lived calm but satisfying and prideful lives. Wang Lin took a deep breath and sorted out all the emotion that surfaced at once in his heart. Old man Jimo, Teng Huayuan, Pu Nanzi, and some of the other cultivators from the country of Zhao, that demonic family's experts, and even the corpse sect head were people Wang Lin must kill. In addition, Wang Lin also had some doubts about how Teng Huayuan had found his family. He will thoroughly investigate this matter, and anyone related will be added to his kill list. Under Yunfei's guidance, on the 4th day they saw, from a distance, an ancient heavenly beast. Comparing Nandu City to this was like comparing a child learning to walk to a giant. Lin City was the size of hundreds of Nandu cities. From a distance it looked like an ancient wild beast laying on the ground and giving off a sense of majesty. Lin City looked like a large Lin beast formed by dark black rocks. The Lin beast's eyes looked as if they contained intelligence and life. Anyone who saw it for the first time would be amazed. The huge Lin beast laid on the ground with numerous scales on its back. Each of those scales was a cave. Inside the Lin beast was the town square. Within it, almost all of the materials and magical treasures in the Sea of Devil were sold. Outside the Lin beast was a circular mountain range that surrounded and protected Lin City. In the north, east, south, and west sides of the mountain, people used a great amount of power to open up a tunnel in the mountain for entering the city. Yun Fei saw Wang Lin's gaze land on Lin City, so she quickly gave an introduction. No one knows the original Lin City. Rumor has it that before the water in the Sea of Devils became mist, this city already existed. Wang Lin scanned the city, and his eyes landed on the Lin's eyes. He was stunned. He slapped his bag of holding with his right hand, and a piece of jade appeared. This piece of jade was given to Wang Lin by Li Mu Wan as a parting gift. The jade contained all of the information from the Duji sect. After he viewed the jade, he realized that the Lin beast had similar effects to the Duji sect's green dragon. Much later, he withdrew his gaze. He started to float casually toward the mountains that surrounded Lin City. Yun Fei quickly followed on her flying sword. Outside the gate of the east side of the mountain stood 2 rows of cultivators in blue robes. Wang Lin scanned them and found that all of them were at the middle foundation stage. They coldly looked at the people coming and going. All visitors showed a Lin-shaped jade. Only after it had been examined could they pass. Among those visitors, there were a few Jidan cultivators, but those blue-robed cultivators maintained their cold looks without any signs of respect. Oddly, the Jidan cultivators didn't mind it much at all either. This strange scene quickly attracted Wang Lin's attention. Yunfei quickly whispered to Wang Lin, "These cultivators are all guards sent by the Lin City Mansion. Within Lin City, there is no other large group like the City Mansion, so within Lin City, the city government controls everything. Any of the sects outside Lin City must follow the city's rules if they wish to enter." Wang Lin nodded. Under his analysis, he thought that the reason for this was that the City Mansion was too powerful. That was why the guards outside were like they were, and even the Jidan cultivators don't dare to cause any trouble. Not long after, it was Wang Lin and Yunfei's turn. She took out her jade, and after paying a certain amount of spirit stones, she led Wang Lin to the city. When Wang Lin walked through the gate, he spread out his divine sense, and found two late-stage Jidan cultivators hiding nearby. Those two Jidan cultivators didn't notice his divine sense at all. Wang Lin's expression remained normal as he followed Yunfei toward Lin City, until they were right next to the Lin beast. Up close, this Lin beast felt even more magnificent. Like a large mountain in front of people, it couldn't help but make people feel small. On the side, Yunfei said, "This is Lin City, one of the 10 main cities in the Sea of Devils." Seeing the Lin beast up close for first the time is always shocking. The rumor is that before the water in the Sea of Devil evaporated, there indeed existed such Lin beasts. I really can't imagine that these type of divine beasts existed. However, Wang Lin wasn't shocked much by this. Compared to the land of the ancient gods, this city really wasn't much. Also, with the memories of the ancient god, Wang Lin didn't feel much from seeing the Lin beast. Not even including the ancient god's memories, just within the land of the ancient gods, that 100,000-foot dragon was much more amazing than this Lin beast. After taking a look, Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and said, "Take me to your house." Yunfei nodded. She stepped on her flying sword and quickly flew to one of the scales. Even though it was just a scale, it was more than 100 feet wide. Standing on the scale, Yunfei took out the jade and sent some spirit power into it. Suddenly, a green light shined from the jade and the scale started to ripple like water, then turned transparent. Yunfei turned around and looked at Wang Lin as her body sank into the scale. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He touched the surface and felt a cool sensation. After pondering for a while, he moved to where Yunfei was standing and also sank into the scale. The cave wasn't large. There were 3 rooms in total. After Wang Lin entered, Yunfei quickly handed the jade to Wang Lin and then uneasily waited for Wang Lin to speak. Wang Lin scanned the jade and found that there was a formation within the jade. This formation was clearly used to control the cave. After looking at it a little, he raised his head and blandly said to Yunfei, "You can freely come and go. But if you reveal that I came out from the chaotic broken stars, don't blame me for not showing mercy. But you can rest assured that I won't stay long in the Sea of Devils. When I leave, I'll remove the restriction I put on you." After he finished speaking, he created another restriction that landed on Yunfei's forehead. Quickly approaching 3,900 words, Leo fierce as a tiger. Wishing for sharing, for likes on the video, for channel followers. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Wang Lin stopping in the sky attracted the attention of the ancient Dao members, and Ye Wei also looked over. This was an ordinary burly man, and he was not eye-catching among the crowd. His cultivation level was only 8-star ancient god, and he hadn't become a lord yet. There was a large amount of people like him in the ancient Dao. Normally, no one would pay attention to him. If not for the fact that the countless transfer arrays had brought him here, he would never appeared here. The burly man was very calm when he was being watched by so many people. He looked at Wang Lin and felt emotional. In his body there was a little trace of the ancient Dao imperial family. This came from Yimo. Yimo was a member of the royal family, and the descendants he had created in the cave world all contained a trace of royal bloodline. Luo Chen Wang Lin looked at the burly man and recalled the past. This burly man was Luo Chen. It was an old friend who had fused with the moongazer and gifted Wang Lin the ancient god stars for his adulthood ceremony. The memories of the cave world appeared in Wang Lin's mind. Wang Lin let out a sigh and hugged Xianxia as he descended down toward Luo Chen. The ancient Dao members all subconsciously retreated, creating a gap. Wang Lin stood before Luo Chen and looked at this familiar face. Luo Chen greets Senior. The burly man sighed and clasped his hand at Wang Lin. When did you separate from the moongazer serpent? Wang Lin looked at the other. After I followed Lord Xuan back here, Lord Xuan helped me separate from the moongazer serpent, the burly man calmly said as he looked at Wang Lin. He recalled when he first met the young man before him and how weak he was. Now Wang Lin had become a grand Empyrean and even killed the ancient Dao Emperor. The ancient Dao Holy Emperor could only watch as Wang Lin left. The blue sea turned into mulberry fields. This was usually used to describe the scenery, but right now it was how Luo Chen felt. Wang Lin softly said, "Why didn't Tu come to find me?" The burly man smiled bitterly and shook his head. He had long known Wang Lin had come to the ancient Dao Imperial City and had thought about coming to see Wang Lin. However, Wang Lin's status was too high as he was the only disciple of Xuan Luo and the future guardian of the ancient Dao. Luo Chen was merely an insignificant member of the ancient Dao. The difference between them stopped him. Seeing the other party's bitter smile, Wang Lin silently pondered. He could vaguely guess Luo Chen's thoughts and sighed. Wang Lin softly said, "Help me with something. Lord, please give me your command." Luo Chen clasped his hands and his voice was filled with determination. "You should know of Yimo's existence." Wang Lin looked at Luo Chen. Luo Chen nodded. When he arrived at the ancient Dao, he had learned about everything from Xuan Luo and learned of the origin of his bloodline. "Help me take care of Yimo's descendants." Wang Lin looked up into the distance of the ancient Dao Imperial City. "As you command. I am currently living in Lord Yimo's mansion," Luo Chen quickly answered. When he came to the ancient Dao Imperial City, he had no home. He had chosen not to stay at the ancient Dao Temple and instead followed his bloodline to Yimo's descendants. Although Yimo's descendants were also part of the royal family, they had fallen and only had one mansion. Yimo's descendants had decided to accept him. Wang Lin revealed a smile. This was a smile filled with memories and emotions. He looked at this burly man as he raised his left hand and pressed his palm on Luo Chen's chest. Then a flash of silver appeared on his hand. Luo Chen's body trembled and silver light shined from his body. The silver light was blinding and caused pain for most of the people who looked at it, causing them to subconsciously withdraw their gazes. Soul blood. When the Holy Emperor ancestor Ye Wei saw this, her expression changed. Xuan Luo's eyes also narrowed. He looked at Wang Lin and Luo Chen. He revealed a complicated expression and let out a sigh. Luo Chen's body trembled, and he clearly felt a hot stream come from Wang Lin and enter his bloodline, causing his bloodline to become incomparably pure. He already had a trace of royal bloodline, and as his bloodline became more pure, he gave off a bloodline pressure comparable to that of the previous ancient Dao Emperor. After a long time, Wang Lin withdrew his left hand. He spread out a bit of his soul blood into Luo Chen and allowed Luo Chen's bloodline to reach the point of being qualified to become the ancient Dao Emperor. "Back then you gifted me the ancient god stars. Today you guard Yimo's descendants. I give you the royal bloodline to repay your kindness." Wang Lin waved his sleeve and flew into the sky with Xianxia. He disappeared in the blink of an eye, leaving only the silent ancient Dao members staring at the sky. Xuan Luo looked at the direction where Wang Lin went for a long time. He let out a sigh from the bottom of his heart. He didn't say more or look at Ye Wei, but focused his gaze on Luo Chen. "I remember that you recalled Luo Chen, correct?" Luo Chen greets Lord Xuan. The silver light dissipated and seemed to condense inside Luo Chen's body. After he heard Xuan Luo's words, he dropped down on one knee and was very respectful. Xuan Luo looked at Luo Chen and pondered as if he was making a decision. A moment later, he revealed a decisive gaze and nodded at Luo Chen. "I choose him." Xuan Luo pointed at Luo Chen and then looked at Ye Wei. Ye Wei revealed hesitation as she looked at Luo Chen, and after a long time, she let out a sigh. "I am going to continue my closed-door cultivation. As for the royal candidate, I'll leave it to Lord Xuan to decide. She turned and walked to the coffin in the purple light. As the purple light dissipated, the coffin sank back into the ground. Even until now, Grand Empyrean Gu Dao had never appeared this entire time. Even Grand Empyrean Gu Dao's messengers never appeared, as if they were intentionally avoiding the situation. Even though the ancient Dao Emperor had called, Grand Empyrean Gu Dao, the guardian of the royal families, still hadn't taken any action. The ancient Dao people didn't talk about this. They buried this doubt deep inside their hearts. Wang Lin also felt doubt about Grand Empyrean Gu Dao not appearing. He had made preparations for the worst. If Grand Empyrean Gu Dao had appeared, he would be gone all out and summon his avatar in the void to fight against him. His chance of failure was great, but he had to fight. However, Gu Dao had never appeared. At this moment, Wang Lin rushed forward and charged at the mountain that had been split in half by the ancient ancestor. He suppressed the doubt in his mind. This was not the time to think about this matter. Even if he continued to think about it, he wouldn't come up with anything. The most important thing was to head to the deserted mountain to resolve the question he had in his heart. Who was the mysterious ancient Dao imperial teacher? As he flew forward, the hand holding Song Ji lit up, and she was put into his storage space. This trip would be dangerous, and Wang Lin didn't want her to suffer any injuries. After Song Ji disappeared, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a monstrous cold gaze and he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was outside the deserted mountain that had been cut in half. He raised his right hand and pressed down at the deserted mountain below. With this, a giant palm print appeared in the sky and rushed toward the mountain. Heaven-shattering rumbles echoed as Wang Lin flew into the collapsed mountain. The mountain trembled. Under the impact of Wang Lin's palm, this mountain started collapsing on a large scale, as if a majority of the mountain was being erased. The giant formation below was revealed and was surrounded by a 10-colored fog. The 10-colored fog flashed and was not damaged at all by Wang Lin's palm. When Wang Lin's palm touched this fog, it turned into countless bubbles that quickly dissipated. "You came," a hoarse and erratic voice came from the colored mist and echoed within the ruins of the mountain. Wang Lin stood outside the 10-colored mist, and his gaze was cold. He felt like this voice was familiar, but very unfamiliar. This made it very difficult to confirm the speculation in his heart. Is the ancient Dao imperial teacher someone who hides like this? You took my wife's soul and let the ancient Dao emperor find someone to fuse with it with the purpose of targeting me. Now I came to you, but you are covered in fog. Are you afraid I will recognize you, or you are someone I know? Wang Lin coldly said. After a brief silence, a hoarse laughter came from the fog, and it caused the fog to move. You have many doubts in your heart. You are wondering who I am, how I took Li Muan's soul, how I brought her to the immortal astral continent, and you are wondering what my purpose for doing this is. You have a lot of doubts, the hoarse voice slowly echoed. Come in. If you can break through the fog and see my true face, I can help you resolve some of your doubts. Wang Lin's heart trembled, but his expression remained the same. He silently raised his hand and green smoke swirled around his fingers and formed circles of green smoke that shot toward the fog. At the same time, the metal, wood, water, and earth extreme Daos also appeared along with the 6 life and death extreme Dao. They appeared before Wang Lin, formed a black and white tattoo that contained 6 extreme Daos. He waved his hand, and the 6 extreme Dao tattoo flew toward the 10-colored mist. Tears, streaming long, wishing for the like button for the video. The moment it touched the fog seemed to boil and spread outwards. Roars of beasts came from within the fog. The roars were heaven-shaking and spread out in all directions. When Wang Lin's 6 extreme Dao tattoo entered the fog, it looked as if it was being devoured by the fog. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he didn't act recklessly. If the ancient Dao imperial teacher inside the fog was really the person he thought, then this fog wouldn't be simple, and that person wouldn't casually allow him to step inside. This person has been here for a long time, and has even created a giant array that connects to the palace. To play such a strange formation in the ancient clan, his goal must be great. Since he hasn't left and is still surrounded by the 10-colored fog, that means he was at the critical moment of a spell. Wang Lin stared at the fog, and as he pondered, thunderous rumbles came from within the fog. The fog rapidly churned, and a giant sphinx charged out from inside. Its large body gave off black gas that released a powerful pressure around it. After this beast appeared, Wang Lin's 6 extreme Dao tattoo descended down on the beast. The beast howled and charged at the tattoo, causing the thunderous rumbles. You have some methods. If it was the complete 8 extreme Dao from the celestial ancestor, you might really break this old man's 10-colored fog. However, with only 6, you have to try harder if you want to come in. As the fog rumbled, a light laugh came from inside. This laugh and voice were extremely clear, even through this rumbling. Wang Lin's expression remained the same. He waved his sleeve, causing an overlapping shadow to appear. His 5-element true body appeared, and it looked exactly the same as him. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes, and then he charged at the 10-colored fog. He closed in on the giant beast and waved his palm. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth appeared. Countless small, golden swords appeared, forming a sword storm. The storm contained powerful metal essence, and it rushed toward the giant beast. The beast was about to resist when the power of earth smashed down on it. At the same time, the sword storm arrived, and it let out a miserable scream. As this miserable scream echoed, the 10-colored fog churned violently and 4 large figures appeared. The first was a giant python. Its body was incredibly large, and it let out a baby-like cry. It opened its mouth and spat out large amount of red aura that surrounded the 5-element true body. The second giant beast to appear was a huge lizard. This lizard was very strange and was completely white like white jade. When it appeared, it spat out its tongue, and a coldness spread out toward Wang Lin's 5-element true body. There was also a strange mantis beast with 6 wings. Its target was not Wang Lin, but the 6 extreme Dao tattoo above. The final beast was an ugly worm-like beast. Its body constantly released a sticky liquid that dripped down. There were 2 tentacles near its head, and at the tips of the tentacles were the heads of beautiful women. When this beast appeared, the 2 women on the tentacles let out sharp screams and looked at Wang Lin. There were flashes of ferociousness in their eyes before the 2 of them charged out of the fog toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. When the strange worm arrived, he raised his right hand and a giant ancient Dao shadow appeared behind him. Then his 27 stars all appeared, and Wang Lin threw the punch. The ancient Dao shadow behind him also threw a punch. Thunder rumbles echoed. The beast with beautiful woman heads as tentacles was knocked back into the fog. However, in the blink of an eye, it appeared once more, and it wasn't injured at all. Wang Lin frowned. The 2 beasts attacking his 5-element true body let out miserable screams. 2 giant, tree-like hands appeared above the 2 beasts. They smashed down and turned the 2 beasts into bloody messes. As for the white jade-like lizard, it was surrounded by a sea of fire filled with fire essence. The lizard screamed and retreated into the fog. There was also the mantis-like beast with 6 wings. It flew toward Wang Lin's 6 extreme Dao tattoo, but the tattoo suddenly exploded into a giant hand. It grabbed the beast and mercilessly squeezed it, causing the beast to collapse. However, what was strange was that another 6-winged mantis beast flew out from the fog. However, the moment the beast flew out, a large amount of water vapor appeared around it, instantly piercing through the beast's body like sharp swords. At the same time, the worm that had tentacles connected to the heads of beautiful women, which had been knocked back by Wang Lin's punch, was about to charge out once more when grains of sand appeared. This was Wang Lin's earth essence true body, and it rushed toward the worm. In the blink of an eye, the beast became a dirt statue. With a thunderous bang, the dirt statue shattered into pieces. With his 5-element true body and 6 extreme Daos, it was enough to suppress the 5 beasts. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and his right hand pointed at the sky. A giant ancient Dao shadow appeared. It became even more solid, like a real person, and it walked toward the fog. It clenched its fist and threw a punch at the center of the fog. However, the moment this punch landed on the fog, it seemed to be blocked and a giant sea beast with 8 tentacles emerged from the fog. Its 8 tentacles wrapped around the arm of the ancient Dao shadow, and then it let out a sharp roar. Shortly after, 3 beasts appeared one by one from the illusion. One was a rock. It opened its wings and flew into the sky. There was also a giant purple phoenix. The moment it appeared, purple light scattered and its cry echoed across the world. The last beast was a human-shaped thing. It was a giant that had 2 heads. Its hands hammered its chest as it opened its mouth and charged at Wang Lin. A total of 9 beasts had appeared from the fog to prevent Wang Lin from entering. There should still be a 10 hours beast. Wang Lin sneered as he raised his left hand and pointed at the ROC in the sky. The space around the ROC seemed to be separated from the world and then was suddenly squeezed. There was a flash of light from his finger. It was the ancient ancestor finger. At the same time, an overlapping shadow appeared on Wang Lin's body again, and then his Slaughter Thunder true body walked out. The hair of the essence true body turned black and gave off a terrifying killing intent while revealing a cruel smile. His eyes were cold and heartless as he stepped forward and turned into countless black threads that penetrated the purple phoenix. The phoenix let out a miserable scream and exploded. Then the Slaughter Thunder essence true body walked out. He licked his lips and charged at another beast. As for the 9th beast, the 2-head giant was only a few hundred feet from Wang Lin. He was blasted with a fishy smell as it ferociously charged forward. Courting death, there was a flash of killing intent in his eyes. Although his 5-element true body and Slaughter Thunder essence true body were away and he was left with only his ethereal essences, he was not someone this mere beast could mess with. Wang Lin still had the strongest ancient clan spell that he had never used. In the entire ancient clan, it was a shockingly powerful life-saving spell. The moment the 2-headed giant closed in, Wang Lin let out a roar at the sky. Popping sounds came from him and his body expanded from a normal person to thousands of feet tall. Ancient Tao True Body. This was the first time Wang Lin had revealed his ancient Tao True Body. His powerful body emitted an ancient aura. There were fine, dark patterns covering his body, giving off a mysterious feeling. Scram for me! In the ancient clan, one would not casually reveal their ancient Tao True Body, because if this body was damaged, it would impact their cultivation too much. Also, it's made it inconvenient, unless it was on the battlefield. In the palace, the ancient Tao members and the Emperor hadn't even had time to reveal their ancient Tao True Bodies before they were destroyed by Wang Lin. Thousands of feet was not Wang Lin's limit. He stepped forward and threw a punch. The 2-headed giant revealed fear and howled as it also threw a punch. However, when their punches collided, the giant's body exploded. There was no resistance at all. Wang Lin's step landed directly.